Okay, I call to order this regular scheduled meeting of the 34th City Council for September 24, 2024. 7 p.m. is the call. Again, I ask everyone in attendance, please, to silence any communication, cell phones, devices, as to not to disturb the meeting. Mr. Clerk, can we please have the roll?
Yes, Councilmember Enos.
Here.
Councilmember Hammoud.
Here.
Councilmember Abraham.
Here.
Councilmember Paris.
Here.
Councilmember El Sawafi.
Here.
Councilmember Herrick.
Here.
Council President Sereni.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Councilman Gary.
At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce Pastor Ryan Wilson of Dearborn Free Methodist Church, who will give the invocation at tonight's meeting. Everyone who is able, please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Most holy God, we gather together this evening to make decisions that matter. But in the rush of agendas and the busyness of doing business, I pray, Lord, that you breathe your peace into our mayor and our city council. Make them to be peacemakers, not just by title, but by heart. And not only them, but guide every resident here to join in the pursuit of justice and the common good for all. Open our hearts, God, to welcome all and to forgive all and love all, and lead us as we walk in the shadow of your Son, Jesus, who's the way, the truth, and the life. And let us see the world through your eyes so that every day is filled with hope and joy and support for one another. And tonight, Lord, as we meet, our hearts are heavy with grief for those who are suffering in the Middle East. God, we ask that you comfort families here and there who have family that have been wounded, killed, or lives threatened. Turn hatred into love, fear into trust, despair into hope, and let oppression fall away to freedom and occupation give way to liberation. Replace violent encounters with loving embraces so that peace and justice might reign for all. As our council members speak and listen tonight, may the decisions they make be guided by wisdom. May they be the right choices at the right time with clean hearts before you and people. Help them to dedicate themselves to your goodness and your justice and your mercy, and strengthen them in weakness. Speak to them in confusion. Protect them when opposition is unfair. And above all, fill them with love for those that they serve. And Lord, we lift up our mayor tonight and our elected officials to you now. Go before them to guide them. Walk beside them to protect them. And be beneath them to lift them when they fall. And hover above them to fill them with hope. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. All right. Thank you very much. Again, council rules are enacted on this term, allow for a 30-minute public comment prior to our business items to better serve our residents. And again, for everyone who has filled out a card, any item that is on the agenda, we will hold your card until that item is up before us for your time to speak at that appropriate time. So, Mr. Clerk, if you want to mark 7:07.
Okay.
Start time. Okay, we have Ms. Harmon, but I'm not sure it says multiple things. So if you'd like to step forward regarding the trees, we'll have you come back up on the tree on that, okay?
That was one of the multiple things. But
Okay.
My name is Nancy Harmon. I live at 22278 Morley Avenue, and I'm the president of the Morley Area Residents Association. And we want to thank you for the lighted stop sign at Brady and Morley. Amen. Yes. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's, and also, I mean, we had a terrible accident yesterday at Morley and Military. If we could do something there, too, that would be great. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much. Yep. We do appreciate it. That's one of the items that we're authorizing some continuous, but traffic and traffic calming measures have been a priority of the administration and the council, so they do make a difference. When a stop sign is flashing at you, it does make a difference, so we're trying, so I'm glad that it is working. All right, next we have Charles Anderson. Yes, sir.
Good evening, City Council. Mr. Mayor is here? No. My name is Charles Anderson, 3757 Grinley Park, Dearborn, Michigan. I'm a 50-year resident of Dearborn, and I have a place out at Camp Dearborn, and this has come up a lot lately. I'm up on F10, which has 3 giant oak trees that bombard me every year with acorns that this year has been tremendously. And I've also had 2 limbs, one that came through my trailer and into the trailer itself. I do have a tin roof on my trailer now, thanks to my brother-in-law. And next to it, I do have a roof. And I'm being told that I have to take this down by March something of next year. I am concerned about that because I called DNR and they said that there's a 4-foot rule around. I questioned the 4-foot rule, and they said that they didn't have it on their books. I'm questioning what this entails. And I have a place in Florida, and 3 sides I can see where you're coming from, but the 4th side to me is my haven. That's where I put all my things, my toys, my barbecue grill, all the things that I enjoy when I'm at Camp Dearborn. And I feel that camping, to me, I graduated from North American School of Conservation years ago and didn't really apply myself, but I consider nature my friend, and the squirrels and the raccoons and the groundhog gets under my place sometimes. I have no problem with living next to that, but for you to tell me that I've got to take a roof down when these acorns are coming down on me in most of the year in harvest season, and the limb itself came into my kitchen. I have pictures if you needed those. But the tree is very tall, and by the time it gets the momentum when it falls out and comes in, it went right through my trailer. And I'm concerned for the safety there of that. I will abide by your 4-foot rule or all the way around because I guess there's no other way out, but I'm concerned.
So, Mr. Anderson, I wanted to just interject for you. First of all,
Yes.
thank you very much for being, a resident. And there is by no means, I can speak for the council, and I'm sure the mayor will agree, that there is no intention to take away anybody's safe haven or anything regarding Camp Dearborn. The state of Michigan, I looked into this very diligently. We had several meetings. I know you called the DNR, but we have reports. They have violated us regarding this. The mayor could speak for himself, but he has been very active in receiving funding through the state, and when we have violations, it has been noted as a violation. We did speak to them. Nothing can be within the 4-foot area, but that doesn't mean that a tree should come through your house. So there's 2 different things there. So I'm going to have our director, Deputy Director Golich, and we have our Camp Dearborn personnel as well. So that could be a maintenance issue as far as us as a city maintaining that tree so it doesn't damage. We don't want trees. I know some people think they last forever, but they can. Some of them do die. I know. But when you have a tree falling, we just probably need to maintain it. But as far as your roof being aluminum, that has nothing to do with the awning. The awning is what they're not allowing us and are enforcing. And I'm going to tell you what I've said many times on the record and many times in the many meetings we had with Camp Dearborn residents, okay, is that we as a city have also contributed, not under this administration, in the past, and failed by not keeping up with it. Realistically, we should have, as a city, made everybody remove their trailer every year for maintenance, to be removed, for us to maintain them and bring them back. We've gave people, there's some people that have permits for these awnings, which are not permitted. So we tried to get them grandfathered in, they're not grandfathered in. So, and a lot of the residents were upset, but we don't want you to feel that we're trying to take away, your sanctuary or your safe haven. But the bottom line is, as you indicated so articulately at the end, you will abide, just like we have to abide. We enjoy our powers through the state of Michigan, and that's what they have instructed to us. So I know that we've invested quite some money in there, and even on the old council, upgraded the electrical. So there's a lot of work to be done to get it to where it should be for you to enjoy it, and we're going that way. But I don't want you to feel that by any means whatsoever, the council, this council is trying to take anything away from anyone. We want you to enjoy your property, enjoy the time that you spend there. But I do have Deputy Director Golich, so he could, F10, did you say is the, F10, there's a big tree that,
Three of them, actually.
yeah. He'll get your information and contact, and then Director Golich, just make sure you contact back the council indicating what was the resolve, if it needs maintenance and trimming, and hopefully that would help.
It's gonna be a long, you'll need a ladder and a lot of other things to get up
Yeah.
that high. But I don't wanna see the trees go, but.
No,
this is-
we're not, no trees coming down, we're gonna
No,
just trim it,
because
if it
I-
needs trimming, right?
That's the reason I go out there, is to enjoy my nature.
Absolutely. Well, we're glad you go
Without the
out.
roof, it's really, I doubt that I'll be doing it anymore, because I do use that as a storage area for my grill and things. I'm 82 years old, I don't set up too well anymore, and.
Well, what I would recommend to you, Mr. Anderson, is you could talk to Deputy Golich, as well as Steve Giebord out there, who's the point person.
Yes.
Because what you can do, what's great about rules is there's always ways to do them within the rules. So all your hobbies and stuff, you might just have to relocate them 4 feet away in a shed, and you should be fine.
I can't. My location, there's.
Your location might not
Actually,
allow.
right next to me, you have a rental, or another spot, nine, that there's no 4 foot between me and the pad and the next. I think it's only 6 foot between. For you to put a trailer in there, it's gonna sit on my pad.
Okay.
F9 and 10. So
Well, he'll get your information and see
Okay.
what we can do about the trees, and then find a solution of, hopefully some solution for you to be able to store
I
equipment.
appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
It's a
Appreciate
getaway
you coming
from me. Thank
forward.
you so much.
Thank you very much. And Director, you'll get it back to us. All right. All right. Besides that, we do have 3 other cards. They are all regarding agenda items, 16 and 28, which we'll address at that time. Is anyone here wanting to speak? 16 and 28. All right, anyone else here, maybe that has not filled out a card, that would like to address the council in the first public portion regarding anything that, city business that is not on the agenda? Okay. Hearing and seeing none, Mr. Clerk will close the public comment at 7:16. And before we move to the consent agenda, are there any items that any member would wish to remove from the consent agenda to discuss individually? Okay, hearing none, Mr. Clerk, you may proceed.
So item number 5 is a resolution in need of offer and support.
Offered by Councilman Herrick, supported by Councilman Enos.
We're approving all the items on the consent agenda and requesting immediate effect.
All right. Mr. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Enos?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamud?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Councilmember Paris?
Yes.
Councilmember El Sawafi?
Yes.
Councilmember Herrick?
Yes.
Council President Sereni?
Yes.
7 yeas, the resolution passes.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Next item.
We're going to move on to item number 15, resolution by Councilmembers Herrick and Enos approving the minutes from the previous regular meeting of September 10th, 2024.
Okay, are there any additions, deletions, or modifications to the minutes? Okay, hearing and seeing none, unanimous roll shall be attached. Next item.
Item 16, ordinance on the table, ordinance number 24-1823, an ordinance to amend the licenses and business regulations chapter 12 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Dearborn by amending Article 24 entitled Tree Removal and Replacement, resolution by Councilmembers Hamud and Abraham to take from the table for its final reading.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clerk. Unanimous roll will be attached to take from the table for its final reading. This item was brought forward by the legal department based on the request I made to them regarding an update to the tree removal and replacement ordinance and the U.S. Court of Appeals ruling against the city of Canton. The following changes have been made or proposed to be made. The requirement to pay into a tree fund as a one-to-one replacement has been removed. Currently, the ordinance requires applicants to either replant every tree that is removed, or if they cannot replant, to pay into a tree fund to cover the cost of replanting elsewhere in the city. With this change, the 2 requirements have been removed, Section 12-1106 and Section 12-1101. Again, these were deemed to be unconstitutional by the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals. A tree permit fee has been added where there was no fee in the past of $0 to a fee of $125. Language has been added to clarify property owner can always in the past and still be able to remove a tree on their property that is in a diameter of 16 inches or more, but is required at 16 inches or more to have a permit. Again, that is for the safety of the neighbors in the surrounding area. The city can replace or replant any tree removed from private property on public property and easements with a waiver from the residents. That was a council initiative to ask for. And an escalating civil infraction for the first 2 offenses have been added, and the third violation in a 12-month period to become a misdemeanor. To ensure that there's no confusion, language has also been added to section 12-1103 to clarify that a license and insurance is only required if a third-party contractor is hired to remove the tree. This is the second and final reading of this ordinance, and I know we have some comments from residents. So first we have Cynthia Haas. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, you would, ma'am, the way it works, you'd step forward to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
Okay.
And then, yeah, we give you a 3-minute
Okay.
limitation, and the clerk will give you a 30-second warning when you get to that.
Okay, I'll just need 40 seconds.
Okay. Just your name for the record.
Cynthia Haas, 6 Brookline Lane. I'm here because I read somewhere that the city was considering getting rid of an arborist for the city. And so I'm here to say I think we need one. And I wanted to read this quote. Over the last 31 years, Dearborn has been known as Tree City, USA. Holly Malowski, Assistant Superintendent of Public Service Division for the city, said, "It is a title the city takes very seriously. We really pride ourselves on maintaining that title in Dearborn." Because we love our trees and we're known for trees, I think we need an arborist to protect them and to treat them.
Well, thank you, Ms. Haas. Again, unfortunately, I don't know if you got that from Facebook or where, but
No,
that's,
not Facebook.
or wherever you got it from, it's false.
Oh, so we're gonna
Yeah, let
have
me say
it?
it again. It's absolutely false.
Okay,
The city of Dearborn, just so you know, has had at one point 3 arborists licensed and on the payroll of the city of Dearborn. One recently retired a couple of years ago. Deputy Director, can you let us know who we have on staff that is an arborist, licensed arborist in the
One in
city?
the audience.
Yep. Good evening, Council Nicole Golich, Deputy Director at DPW. We have 2 licensed arborists on staff, and then we actually have one in the audience, so.
Oh, good, we have one audience, excellent.
We do.
So there has
We
never.
do have them, and there's,
Right, there has, and this ordinance was brought forward, but people don't understand it. You know, they don't understand when the circuit court says you're doing something unconstitutional, we have to abide by the law. Right? And that's what we had to do. It doesn't mean anything changed. We're following the law. Some people don't want to follow the law. We have to follow the law. And there is absolutely no intention whatsoever to remove an arborist whatsoever from the city of Dearborn. We had 3, we have 2 now,
Cool.
and we're very proud of that.
all right. Sorry to take your time.
No, that's okay. It's good that you brought it forward so that maybe some people will listen to
Yeah,
this.
No, thanks for
absolutely.
clarifying, because I think you got scared for a second in the audience, wondering if you had a job. Other than me.
Thank you, Director Golich. All right, next on the tree ordinance, we have Helen Thornton. Helena, I'm sorry, Helena? Yeah, I apologize. Yeah, sorry, I didn't miss the A.
Can I ask you, I can email this to you after the fact, and I just have 1 copy. Is that okay if I pass?
Absolutely, our staff can take care of it.
Okay, thanks. I'm sorry about that, but,
Okay. Jackie.
but I'll point to this and, my name's Helena Thornton. I live at 23731 Marshall Street. I'm here to talk about the red line of the tree ordinance. Thank you, by the way. It's very, very good. It's very, very good. My biggest concern, though, is Section 12-1106. It talks about the language in there, given credit for replacing 1 tree. Strangely, on the application, it also talks about given credit, but there's no accountability. There's a big gap in the current process. I just had a tree taken down in my backyard a couple months ago. It was an emergency on the application. It wasn't deemed an emergency, and nobody asked me about a replacement tree, and there's a sketch for whomever's the city person is to show, where the tree is relative to the house. It's just a sketch, it's not very detailed. But they could have maybe asked me about a replacement tree and where I might want to put one or something, but there was zero conversation about this. So my question, and it says on that application that I would be given credit based on this, several sentences. I see in your attempt here in the red line that you're trying to simplify that. It's extremely important that you're trying to simplify. I think that's extremely good direction. But the fact that somebody's asking, or it's still using that phrase, given credit for replacement tree, it's in there, it's in your red line. And so that's not clear. What is that process? I realize you're setting goals, not the detailed process, but there's no accountability today. I just thought I'd make sure you know that. I did mention a couple of weeks ago when I was here about the tree equity score. I want to reiterate, we have a moderate score in the city for tree equity. We need 13,000 additional trees today. DPW, I think at one of the meetings reported, they put about 300 trees per year in. So I could be wrong, but if that's true, that's 43 years that within 43 years, we're gonna get this additional 13,000 without considering that we're cutting them down, every week. So we need the trees, right, for their quality. They help us with particulate matter. The airplanes come above us. They have sulfur in their diesel fuel. I'm wondering if people don't want trees on their property. Can't we, at this point, maybe that would be part of your process to begin collaborating with the county, for example. Perhaps they could use additional trees, that we could say, hey, yeah, we had one cut down, but we don't have a place to put one. Do you guys have room? Where's the collaboration?
You have 30 seconds.
On the note of collaboration, why do we have 4 lanes here in Michigan Avenue? 2 people died within the past 2 months. Worldwide, what people do to slow traffic, add bike lanes, add landscaping. I have tried to cross across the Southfield Freeway on the north side of Michigan Avenue. It's basically impossible.
Okay. Yes, Mayor?
You want me to?
Yeah, if you
I'll
go
try to splice through some of that. I'll start with the end, then maybe go to the beginning. As it pertains to Michigan Avenue, we've actually been advocating to the state of Michigan to do a lane reduction, especially out here, given us 9 lanes actually going all the way across. And so we've been advocating for that. The state of Michigan is always pushes back on such, but we're going to continue those conversations with the Department of Transportation. As it pertains to the tree replacement, when you go to file, now traditionally the city replaces all the trees that we take down on the easement, because that's our property. Historically speaking, the city has not replaced trees they've taken down on private property. Right. The initiative that we want to begin is if you take a tree down on private property, that we will begin to replace it in a public property somewhere, whether it's in an easement somewhere else that doesn't have a tree, or working with the county and state and planting trees. It wasn't 300 trees that have been planted a year. Prior to my tenure, possibly. Over the last 2.5 years, we've done close to 2,500 trees. We had Friends of the Rouge do an additional 100 trees or so in the south end as well. We have a goal of 10,000 trees actually coming up. We're working on this project to do a full tree survey across the whole city of Dearborn, a tree canopy study, then plus try to find where we can plant the additional 7,000 trees or so over the next 2 years. So we do have a very robust tree program. The goal, to your point, is to reduce kind of the bureaucracy to come into compliance with state law, to add a fee so that if you are going to pull a tree permit that you should have to pay, and maybe that pushes people away from actually wanting to take down a tree in their backyard, just to make sure that we're in compliance and nobody can challenge the law that we have in the books, given the recent court rulings following some court cases out of Canton and some others. But we're 100% there with you on trying to pull particulate matter out of the air and things of that nature. We know the benefit that trees have. In fact, we've been buying up industrial properties with the support of council, deindustrializing those properties, and actually working on a green belt. So we're replacing a lot of gray land with more green infrastructure, which is to come. It's a long-term project, but the council has been very supportive of this initiative as well.
Just put a little bit in there about what, if you can't fit one, then the city, refer to the city and the city will help with such as, because it's just not in there.
Of course, I think that's more operational and processes, which we tend to handle. Yeah, but we'll be sure to beef up the information that we provide to residents when they pick up permits and such.
Yeah. And then Mayor, yeah, if you don't mind, Mayor, then again, this hasn't passed yet, and once it passes, it takes 5 days or so without veto. So I'm sure the permit application and the powers to be will then adjust that to reflect.
Correct.
Okay. So I hope that answers their question. And then there's also a provision that the council had added as you indicated, Mayor, in the past, and I don't want to mix this up, on personal property, the city had no replacement of trees. So when we were taking out trees under construction, we never replaced them. Last council got wind of that and mandated that, and it's been continuous on that. But we're talking here about personal. And then we also indicated that we will, in this ordinance, Mr. Romer, which section indicates that if a resident does not want to put a tree back in on his property, we will put one? What section is that?
It's the same section. It's B. It's 12-1106, but it's subsection B. It's at the bottom in green.
Got it. Okay. The
Page
tree
5.
Yep, page 5. Okay,
It's titled Tree Replacement by the City.
right, and the city will then replace it, so we will not lose any trees. And just for our residents too, to make it, give them a little bit more information, as the mayor had spoke, I had spoke on this a few times, but we also have contracted with a tree trimming company, which we haven't had our trees trimmed in over 7 years in our neighborhoods. So we've been trimming the trees, which are healthy for them. I know we did have a resident said that we're trimming them too much, and she wanted to talk to the arborist and said that they weren't doing the right job. But we did contract with a company to maintain trees. We believe in that. We are a Tree City USA. But just like anything else, if you don't trim or maintain it over 7 years, you're gonna have a problem. So if you see in the neighborhoods, we have been maintaining and making sure that they are trimmed properly, which is the first time in a while. For my colleagues, have anything else to add? Councilman Hamud?
Kind of just dovetail on some other things that we also added in here. Some of the, I was pointing out to Council President, some of the previous language on the tree replacement form is actually now illegal. We cannot force people to put trees on their property. That's a form of government taking. So that's one. So some of the language that's on there, you know, we have to update all of it because it doesn't hold up in court. But one of the things, I think it was Councilman Abraham, if I remember correctly, had us do is we have a tree opt-out program instead of opt-in. So now, so again, not to confuse some of the things, the main issue people are talking about is personal property trees, but to kind of compensate for giving people more liberty on their own property, we've taken initiative on city-owned property, both even before all this conversation. This administration has planted more trees in our 3 years than the last administrations did in forever. But on top of it, now we have a initiative where we will be proactively planting trees on easements going forward unless the landowner says they don't want one. So we have an opt-out instead of an opt-in, which is another new program because it used to we just were not planting trees and easements for a very long time. So that's why you do have some neighborhoods that had the CSO project go through there,
Right.
and they're devoid of trees because they weren't planting them. So again, we're trying to take steps now to fix it. Unfortunately, it's gonna take a while because trees take a while to grow before we have the canopy cover back again. But again, going back to the actual writing that's in here, it's actually much more friendly than it was in the past, and it's still in compliance with state law as well as giving individual landowners their liberty. So I think we've hit a very good balance here in terms of both competing interests, I think, in this case.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Paris?
Thank you, Council President. What I wanted to make mention is we did have a lot of discussion about this ordinance and any amendments, and we've changed some language, and I think all of us had a good bit of work that we did on this. Myself, in particular, I know it's very dear to everyone's heart about this tree canopy and what we're known for, and maybe we're not earning that designation as much as maybe we believe we have in the past. Me personally, and this is only me speaking personally, I really wanted to increase the penalties for not being in compliance with this ordinance, especially when we do have some items or trees that are taken down after hours or Saturday and Sunday. And so we did work on it, so if you have the chance, and I know you don't have it in front of you with the agenda, but if you go online, it's available to you, all the backup material that we have before us, and you can see the violations and penalties have increased considerably or have been spelled out exactly what those penalties are, so it's clear, because it just said before, it was not real clear and it was very vague. So we have changed that, and I did have some input as far as the replacement, because I'd really like to see the trees being replaced on the easement, especially if you're taking them off your property with the permit, taking them off the property, that we should be able to replace that tree on an easement. So, thank you, Council President.
Absolutely. We have a couple other comments, but I have one more card that I missed, so there's Kevin Green? Yes, sir. So step forward and just state your name and address for the record, and then, no, we have Councilman Eric and then, yeah.
Kevin Green, 830 South Brady. My question was, you simplified the ordinance, at least that's what you say you're trying to do, but the way I read it is there's only one basis for removing a tree, and that is for a structure. You've taken out all of the other requirements so that my question is, what if it's a damaged tree? What if it's a dangerous tree? Right now it says the standards for removal of a tree are a structure, period. You took out everything else that was in there and you just left the structure. So was that intentional? Are you trying to leave dangerous trees in place?
No.
And
Yeah, so I'll
But
go
I
ahead
don't-
and answer. Yeah, I'll go ahead and answer then. Mr. Romer, can you find that spot where he's indicating the structure? Because my understanding is that in the past, so what happened in the past is that anything under 16 inches, there's no permit required. Anything
Understood.
over 16 inches was a permit required for 0 fee, which made no sense.
Right.
And you didn't have to have a reason. What you could say is, I want it removed. It's not for a structure, it could be for any reason. The lady just said her tree was dead. And by the way, I've already said this too, there's a city tree that the city arborist came out, just so you understand, I'm not an arborist, but I'll challenge any of them anytime, because they drill a hole in one section on Cherry Hill and said, this tree is fine, and then it fell on the neighbor's yard, cracked their fence. He filed a claim under last administration with the legal department, they denied him. Then he showed a picture of it completely hollow, and then they paid him. And that was a tree that the arborist indicated was fully healthy. So what happened in the past, Mr. Green, is that what the city was doing was saying, and what Canton was doing, which was found to be unconstitutional, and a taking was, you can take your tree down if you want, but you have to replace it, another tree, and pay into a tree fund. And that's why the ordinance is being revisited, because our ordinance has the same provisions.
Okay,
So
what
hang
the
on,
language
let me-
says, the
me
way
get
I'm
you-
reading it, I'm looking at the red line before Mr. Romer says anything, is review standards. The following standards shall be used to review the applications for tree removal permits. Struck, okay, it's got 16 inches or greater. Struck 2, struck 3, 4, the removal of trees within the affected area shall be limited to instances where necessary for the location of a structure or site improvement, and when a reasonable and prudent alternative location is not there. Period. That is the only thing that is in the review standards. There is nothing about damage, there's nothing about anything. So that's number one. Number two is, okay, you're gonna collect 125, which I think is too low but that's a decision that, you
Well,
guys
yeah,
have made.
Mr.
And-
Green, and let me
and-
address that real quick for you, just so you can understand, because some people don't understand that we have case law here too, because we had some people asking to make the permit fee $1,000. And I mentioned that there was a council previous, which they asked for a $1,000 permit fee. I was the only person that voted against it, and it was found to be deemed illegal, and we had to retract it. So let me just make it clear. The city of Dearborn and the government is not supposed to make permit fees that are punitive in nature. That's illegal. So that means we can't make a fee to punish you, okay? You cannot do that. It has to
I
be.
understand. I'm a lawyer too. You don't
Okay,
have
so
to
you're- so
speak
then you
down
should
to me. I
understand. Okay.
understand what you're saying.
Some people don't understand that because there's people that send us things saying that should be $1,000. So I want you to understand, for the last 30 years, the fee was 0.
I understand that.
Okay, so 125 was what the council came up, based on the administration, that's what a normal cost would be to send someone out to inspect it, make sure that they had proper insurance if it was certain highs, if they were using a contractor. So that's what we came up with. I just wanted to clarify that for you.
Okay, I still think it's too low.
Okay.
There's a big gap between
0.
125 and 1,000.
Well, it was 0. I think, wait, did I say that before? Because it was 0 for 30 years.
You can say 0 all you want. I understand what 0 means. That's not the question. But am I not reading the standards section correctly?
No, so you have First, there's a distinction between residential and commercial and
Yeah.
industrial, which was not mentioned by you. So how it's regulated in residential, or how it's being proposed, is the 16 dBH. If it's under, you can just take it out for whatever reason. If
Right.
it's over, you need a permit. Right?
That wasn't my question. My question was,
clarify your question for
you
me.
have standards, and I just read it to you, but I'll read it to you again.
I don't know, you don't need to talk to me like I'm a child. I understand what you read to me.
That seems to be,
I'm giving- no,
that seems to be the approach that is taken with council, so
No.
I can give it as well as I
Sir,
can
if
receive it.
I did
Mr.
not
Green,
give you
Mr.
any
Green.
hostility.
I know,
I
Mr.
gave you
Green.
the floor. I appreciate the
Yeah.
floor back when you're
Yeah,
asking me
Mr.
a
Romer.
question to answer.
Mr. Green, we're giving you latitude. This is a council meeting, and the city attorney has 7 clients and the mayor 8, so I'm sure you're aware of the professional rules of conduct. I'm giving you latitude to ask him to clarify your situation, but please be respectful or we'll have to end the conversation.
Yes, sir.
All right, so you're indicating, Mr. Romer, that there's distinction between residential and commercial?
I'm indicating that to the lawyer, there are 3 blurbs under review standards. 1 residential, commercial, industrial, and then another subsection that he is referencing. If you look at the residential subsection, which has been the topic of debate tonight,
Yes.
how homeowners regulate their tree, it is 16 dBH or more. So a homeowner can remove their tree for any reason under 16 dBH without a permit. If it's over 16 dBH, then they need a permit. It's as simple as that.
I do understand that, which is not anything that I had said. What I had said was, keep going down to review standards, section F. The following standards shall be used to review the application for tree removal permits. Number 1, the tree has a DBH of 16 inches or greater. That's what you said, that's what I had said. Number 2, struck. Number 3, struck. Number 4, the removal of trees within the affected area shall be limited to instances. A, where necessary for the location of a structure. And that's it. That is the only standard that is in this statute. I'm looking at your language, and I'm happy for you to point me to something that's incorrect, but I'm reading what looks to be clear to me. And I just want to understand, if it's a damaged tree, you can't remove it, permit or no permit, because that is not for a structure. If it's a tree that's going to fall or it's diseased, you can't remove it because that's not for a structure. And I'm saying, I think there's a gap.
I
Mr.
just
Romer?
disagree with this.
Yeah, I disagree too. It's an interpretation. It says shall be removed for structure or site improvement. So site improvement could be just like the lady before you who took it down because it's disease. We're not limiting you to. And as you know as a lawyer, when we limit, if we turn around and list every reason, then that's a list. And if we make a list, as you know as a lawyer, that means if it's not on the list, it doesn't exist. So we left it vague.
That is absolutely an
There is
erroneous interpretation.
Okay, well,
A
that's
site
fine.
improvement is not removing a tree.
Okay, well, that's fine. That's how you feel. There's also an emergency section 12.105, 1105. But hang on, before I get to Councilman Pierce, is there anything, Councilman Hamud, is there anything else you wanted to say?
Okay, so you, I think, just put your finger on it. That may be what the answer is,
Okay.
12-1105.
Right.
But the question is, why is that only for an emergency? Why is that not part of the permit process? Why does it have to be in imminent danger in order for there to be that situation?
I don't see anywhere, and then Mr. Roman, correct me if you're wrong, I don't see anywhere that exclusively indicates that it has to be an imminent danger. The tree could have been removed before this ordinance without any reason or cause. You don't have to have a reason to remove a tree on your property.
But again, I'm not trying to argue that.
I know, I'm just
saying you're listing standards, and these are the standards, and there's only one standard.
There's 2 standards. It says
The
structure or
dimension.
site improvement. Site improvement, you have a different interpretation than us. Mr. Romer, do you disagree with that?
Again, there are 3 standards.
Right.
He's referencing one of the standards.
Okay.
This is where him and I disagree on the structure of the code.
That's what you're saying.
I'm not going to debate it with him. He's entitled to his
What
opinion.
is the third standard? I'm sorry.
You're in subsection 3. There are 2 before that. How are you relating that to subsection 1 and 2? It's not a 1A or a 1AB. It is a separate section. So again, I go back.
I'm in F.
Again, I won't debate it if you're gonna cut me off and not give me the floor, respectfully. You get the floor, I get the floor. That's how this works, I assume. So I will cut off my conversation, I will yield it back to the public body.
So, Mr. Green, we appreciate your comments. I think there's discrepancy on that. Is there anything else you wanted to say? You also indicated that the $1,000 and the 125, where do you think it should be at?
In the 250 to 500 range.
Okay, and-
I don't think it should be I don't think it should be 1,000 either.
And what are you basing that on, the 250 on?
Because I think that it should be something that's going to, it's not an, you're talking about punitive. It's not.
I didn't say nothing, you're saying.
No, you said you can't be punitive, you're not trying to be punitive, and I'm not
I also said it had to be
suggesting punitive either.
rationally related to our cost. That is the law. That's a takings clause. We have the case right in front of us from Canton. You can ask Canton who got sued on it.
And 125 is the cost that you've determined?
That's what our recommendation was based on the people in that department and what it costs to come out. But I know you said it wasn't good enough. You thought it should be more. So I'm asking, how did you come up with your rationale? Because maybe my colleagues agree with you and say we should make it $1,000.
I think just a visit, and again, whether it's, however you determine your 16 inches, because, I
With
don't
a
know.
tape measure. It's a tape measure.
I understand I can use a tape measure, but that doesn't mean that that's who determines the actual dimension. The homeowner? Because the homeowner can say it's less than 16 inches, and then you're done. There's nobody, or is an arborist who has to come out, or a city employee who has to come out and measure it. You know, I understand what 16 inches is. I understand what a tape measure is. The question is, who makes the measurement, and how do you actually implement that? And if you're asking somebody to actually go out there, then you are looking at cost. If there's nobody to go out there, then there is no cost, other than the processing of the fee.
Right. Okay.
So,
Councilwoman Herrick, did you have something to follow up on?
Yeah, not.
No, okay. You have a question, Councilman Hamud, and then we'll get back to
Yeah,
Councilman.
just a couple of your points. One is, I'm sure a lot of our employees wish they got paid more than $40 an hour, but that's just not even close to what the cost is of doing business here. So that's why the number seems a little low, is because you guys are getting very good value for your tax dollars. So let's make that very clear. Number two is just a little bit, so I did catch a little bit. You brought a good point as far as the 16 and 12 and all that. I just want to read into the record on 12-1104, subsection A under required. 16 is struck through and 12 is next to it. We actually meant to put 16 there to clear up there's a little hole in the ordinance right now, just the way it ended up edited. So I want to make sure it's on the record for the clerk. So, and that also.
For legal.
Yeah, well, legal already knows, but in the draft, it got weird. And that kind of goes to answer your question in a way. So if you fall below 16, you don't need a permit period for anything at all.
Agreed.
And then if you're over 16, that's why the review standards, if you go to subsection 1 and inside of it, you call it F, it's actually E based on the newest drafts.
okay, I mean.
So
you're looking at the
you
wrong
go to
one.
subsection, so you go to subsection E under review standards, and then the subsection 1 there, it says, in residential zoning district, the tree has a DBH of 16 inches or greater, period. So if you're a resident and you come to us and your tree is over 16 inches, which you legally have to do anyway because subsection A says that if it's over 16 inches, you have to come to us regardless, boom, you're done. Because it's kind of like, it's a funny thing. You're in the building, therefore you get the permit, right? You see how that works?
Yep. So you can take anything down, which I understand. I'm just wondering why there are review standards other than the 16
Because for other
inches.
districts, they have other review standards based on, let's see, subject to the zoning ordinance, because we are allowed to mandate as a city some landscaping aspects inside of commercial and industrial site review. We don't get that with residential because, residential property is not considered like high intensity use versus other things. We do have legal standards. And like I have been saying for a very long time to everybody here, we take every inch we can to plant trees on every single property in the city. So the reason why it sometimes gets a little arduous on the legal aspects is because we are so aggressive on landscape buffers. You can ask anyone who's ever built any kind of commercial property here or a parking lot or anything. We nail them to the wall on landscaping. So that's why there's other stuff in here as far as like, we don't want somebody to come in, you just approve them on zoning, they have to put a buffer on their parking lot, and then they come in the next day, pull out their trees with a tree permit. No, you can't do
And
that.
I've actually seen that in action. I don't disagree
Yeah,
with
that's
you.
illegal.
At least, it's happening on Garrison, and I know there was a big complaint about trees, and all these trees were
And that's
put
why
in
now we
as
have
the
an
buffer.
extremely aggressive punitive subsection, thanks to Councilman Paris, where we, again, nail them to the wall as much as legally possible on that one too.
So perhaps you could explain then
Oh.
what section 4 means.
Section 4.
What was 4, and again,
Council President,
I think
probably
we know we're over 3
Yeah.
minutes.
E4.
Yeah, I know,
I'm
sorry.
So I understand, but there's dialogue going, so, Mr. Green, did you have all your questions answered? Because Councilwoman Herrick is waiting to address this.
Yeah.
Did you have any other questions you
I
had?
just wanted to see, because
Subsection.
Councilman Hamud pointed to the right section, and I agree with you, it's now
There is
E,
no
used to
4.
be F.
They used to, there's no 4, it's 3. Yeah,
So,
there's
so
only
maybe
3.
maybe I don't have the right
3
one.
yeah, 3
So
is-
is there still removal of trees within the affected area?
I think that they're pointing to the commercial and zoning districts affected area, if I'm reading that correctly, so.
But so maybe that got moved elsewhere, because right now it's under F, which is the same thing that we were talking about before.
Maybe 3 should become a sub-bullet of 2? Is that what maybe we're thinking?
Again, I'm not arguing, I'm just trying to
No,
figure it out.
I understand. I'm asking a
Okay.
question to legal.
So ask your question
Yeah,
so we
my-
can
my
get a
only-
direct
my-
answer, and I
yeah,
think Mr. Green
so
does.
Yeah, I'll state a specific.
Mr. Romer?
Just, do we think maybe section 3 should be a sub-bullet of 2, or is it a separate review standard?
Yeah, so I don't know what F says, my F says stumps. The
Yeah,
stumps
yeah,
of
no, I'm
trees.
talking about subsection E.
Okay, so E, you're talking about E3?
Yeah, E3, I think it's tying into the review standards for E2, right?
Yeah, E2 is meant to correlate to what you've already said with the buffers and then
Yeah.
the site plan review process as far as commercial and industrial
Yeah, so
parcels
E3,
go.
it says within the affected area, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it looks like
I'm
it should
guessing
be a
it's commercial.
subsection of 2, or you could just eliminate, it doesn't, it's,
Yeah, it's kind of a little bit redundant.
Okay.
because you
so-
have 1 and 2. But I'm just
Yeah.
saying it's a separate subsection is the way
Yeah,
it's been
yeah.
handled.
So Mr. Romer, that's what I was trying to get to, and, for all the, I just didn't understand why that was in there and only has one thing. So maybe that's it, it's not supposed to be there, it's supposed to be someplace else, which makes sense.
I think the whole point of not to speak for Mr. Romer, I think the whole point of this bullet is to provide zoning board a little bit of guidance on our ordinance, because the whole point is that if you see for structural removal, it can be demonstrated to create undue hardship. Undue hardship is usually like zoning related.
Yeah,
Because
that's- that's a
again,
term- that's a term
we-
hard for
yeah,
that
we
area, yeah.
want, again, we try to enforce our laws, but sometimes we don't want to be super unreasonable to people on top of it. So when you
So,
have an
Mr.
undue hardship, we want to be open-ended a
Councilman
little
Hamud,
bit.
you offered this,
Yeah,
Councilman Grant
I
supported it.
did.
Are you asking to make an amendment to that, or are we good, Mr. Romer, as it is, so we can leave it for the planning?
Yeah, do we want to put it as a sub-bullet?
I think he just meant A instead of 3. I think he just has the wrong lettering there. So you can make it a subsection, but really what I would recommend then is you strike it, because 2 is regulated by site plan in buffers in zoning already.
Yeah, so maybe
You
we
don't
want
need
to
a separate
strike
standard.
3 and then put A under 2? Is that what you're thinking?
Strike 3, put A under, no, strike
Oh.
3 entirely. The
Oh.
removal of 3, and then A, subsection A should be stricken.
All right, so-
Entirely?
Subsection
Already
2
done.
already references standard in zoning, and then it's
Okay.
regulated through site plan as well.
Okay.
So
So
would
you
you like
don't
to
need to
remove that, Councilman
articulate
Hamud?
Uh,
You offered it.
I
so-
do, no, I'm just thinking
Yeah.
to myself, because the problem is, sometimes I don't like to leave things too open for zoning, because I want to create the undue I want to be super clear about that.
Then leave it,
Yeah, it
for
depends
them.
if you want the standard in under 2 or not.
Yeah, I think I want to keep, A, but I'm willing to strike 3 and put A under 2. Does that work?
Yeah, so you're just converting 3 to an A. Under
Basically,
bullet
yeah,
two.
basically, yeah.
Okay, Councilman
Yes, you
Abraham,
can
do
do
you have any objection to that?
No.
No.
Okay.
All right, so Mr. Romer, can you make that amendment for our final rebut? Absolutely.
I got it.
All right, Mr. Green, any other questions? Thank you very much for coming and bringing us forward. Councilwoman Herrick.
I want to thank Mr. Green as well. Thank you for your attention to detail. between you and Councilman Hammoud. You've helped us navigate through this ordinance, and it will eventually make it easier to follow. So as hard as it was to listen to that, so thank you. So we've heard from all the residents who are planning to speak at this point? Oh,
Just Ms. Harmon was last.
okay,
But
so
you- I thought
let's
you
have
wa-
her speak and then I'll speak.
So you wanted to wait? Okay,
Yes,
Ms.
please.
Harmon? Yeah, that's fine, no. Ms. Harmon was waiting, but I didn't know if you had something
thank
on that
you.
issue.
No.
Yeah, absolutely, Ms. Harmon.
Nancy Harmon, 22278 Morley Avenue, and I understand that you're looking at all the ordinances, and I really appreciate it, especially if we get to the historic preservation ordinance. But for this one, as Councilman Paris mentioned, the consequences of taking a tree down on a weekend or after hours. How is that enforcement going to happen? During the tree study, it was very difficult the police department wasn't really saying it. What's the plan for enforcement?
Enforcement, Ms. Harmon, is handled by the administration, and during that time, there was no record of, from the department that there was any, I think there was a few that they found were after, I think that was the economic development, but enforcement is handled by the administration. So our job is to legislate it, and if there's an administrative aspect or gap, then the mayor would let us know, like we did with the Clean Streets program, then we would fund it during the funding time. But as of now, Mr. Mayor, you don't have any issues with enforcement?
Yeah, what I tell you, obviously, most of our neighborhood enforcement officers work Monday through Friday, and you have a PD on the weekends, so you can call non-emergency line on the weekends, we can document it, and then based on the ordinance, we can go out there and charge them the appropriate fee.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah, but
after
it is.
the fact, not
It's
Yeah,
after
it's,
the fact,
it's,
yeah.
yes, right. Because the weekend, we don't have the staffing and
They
the
can't
time.
process, if they have a company on site, they already started cutting it down, odds are, for the sake of taking down the rest of that tree, you're gonna do it right then and there. And so
Right.
you'll just charge them the additional fee later.
Right. But we, just for the resident, but we do need like the address of the home, not somebody told you that somebody took a tree down or anything like that, because we have a lot of that. It has to be, this is the address, somebody took a tree down, we'll send somebody out.
Yeah, I mean, the last time I called it in, it was a tree on Garrison that was coming down. The tree cutters didn't even have a license plate. They'd taken their license plate off, and there was nothing to identify them. So I had those photographs and the size of the tree, but there's no enforcement at that point. So just knowing, going forward, what do? We call the
Non-emergency line on weekends, or
Yep.
like late in the evenings if it's happening then, Monday through Friday, you can call 943-2150 and ask for neighborhood enforcement, or call one of your neighborhood liaisons.
Okay.
Have it documented so that we can go after the homeowner
And we have
give them the
NPOs.
appropriate ticket.
Yes.
We also have NPOs, you're aware of that, though?
The neighborhood
Oh,
police
yeah, oh,
officers.
sure.
I know, but
Justin
They're
Smith.
on the walk
I know,
with
but
us.
when you say, oh, sure, they didn't exist until this administration.
No, I know, Justin
but-
Smith is
I know, but
ours.
so everybody
Yeah.
hears.
Oh, sorry.
So everybody hears, we have neighborhood police officers designated for the specific neighborhood. That was never happened before under the city of Dearborn. So that's one person, right? And he gives his number out to everybody. And then there's the neighborhood liaisons as well. So those are two layers.
Silvio for your neighborhood as well.
Yeah, Silvio Davis is yours for your neighbor. I'm sure you know.
Mary.
Is it Mary?
Yeah, Mary's mine. Mary.
Oh, Mayor, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Even
Thank
better,
you.
Even better.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, Councilwoman Herrick. Ken, you want to?
Just about her comment.
Yeah, is about your comment? Go ahead, Councilman Parrish.
Only about
Okay, you're okay.
Nancy's comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Harmon, for bringing that forward. I just want to let you know that myself and a number of council members have brought this point up too about this after hours, weekends or whatever, if you have questions. And we do know the answer is the non-emergency number. But I will tell you, myself personally, I have reported it. And I've actually talked to a police officer that responded. And I wanted to make sure that a report was made on it. Even if the police officer does not know if there is a permit and they don't have a means to look up to see if there is a permit, there is still a means of getting enough information, taking a picture if they have to, making a report, so that way it can be reviewed later. Because I will personally say, in a neighborhood that I live in, it came to my attention about another home that did that, and I heard the follow-up on it, and it was substantial fines that were involved. So the police department knows what to do, and we've had this discussion too, to make sure that the police officers are aware that this happens. It might not be up there on the priority list because there's so many things that come to their attention that they have to take care of, but they will go out there, if at all possible, and see what they can look into, because sometimes they do have a permit. And the simple answer is, yes, we have a permit, here it is, or I did so on such and such a date, and that's the end of the story. So it does happen, and we are aware of it. Thank you.
Right. And just so everyone knows too, the permit is required to be on site, so there shouldn't be an issue with the permit. The permit, they shouldn't have an issue of calling in. The permit has to be posted, permit has to be at the property, so. Councilman Herrick.
Thank you, Council President. I share the concerns of many of Dearborn residents about our city's decreasing tree canopy, especially the need to protect and preserve mature heritage trees that have the greatest beneficial environmental benefits. The original ordinance was written to ensure that, and quote, "the city will continue to realize the benefits provided by its urban forest," and to emphasize that, quote, "the protection and conservation of healthy, high-quality trees is of paramount concern." Dearborn's current tree ordinance was established with good intentions to preserve highly beneficial trees. However, as you've heard, our legal department has provided counsel to us that it's not legally enforceable to penalize residents on private property who want to remove trees from their property. Therefore, we must consider how Dearborn can uphold the original intent of the tree ordinance as we may legally as we can in a legally enforceable way. I was really happy to hear the mayor outline some of the current initiatives that we have underway. He's been very forward-thinking in, again, turning formerly commercial and industrial property into green space, encouraging the use of things like rain gardens, and planting trees wherever we can on public property, which includes the easements of residents. And through the administration and then our budget process this past year, we provided funds to be able to place a tree anywhere one was removed on the city easement, which is a separate issue. I know we're talking about private property right now, but those things all work hand in hand, and we need to continue to fund those types of initiatives. Right now, we're only planting trees in the easements where the city is taking down trees right now. In the past, as Council President discussed, it wasn't a priority. There weren't funds to put trees in anywhere a tree was taken down unless the resident wanted to pay for that tree. But, you know, over the past couple of years, we've been planting a lot of easement trees using everything from grant-funded trees to your taxpayer dollars at work to provide those trees on the easements. In the past few council meetings, we've heard from residents who talk about all the benefits of trees, from improving the air quality, absorbing rainwater, providing shade that lowers the temperature of the air in your little microclimate in your neighborhood, to calming traffic, being a noise buffer, beautifying the landscape, and even slowing traffic. For these reasons and more, we need to not only look at the ordinance that we have before us regarding the residential property trees, but how we can increase the tree canopy going forward. And again, I know that the administration is working on initiatives and has them underway with this in mind. We have a lot of residents who want to give input on that. I have a question for the administration. Are we still collecting input on the city plan, or has that closed? Do we know? The online collection of information on the city plan? Has that ended? Our economic development director is coming forward here.
Mm-hmm. Good evening, Council. Jordan Twardy, Economic Development Director. The survey has closed, but you could still submit comments through the website, plandearborn.org. So if anybody has any trouble with that, reach out to the response center, but we would be happy to take any comments, though that survey is closed.
Right,
Okay.
but that was extended a few times.
It was.
Because I had shared,
Yeah,
yeah, we
why
have
I
shared
asked.
it, all of us.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And are there going to be any more community meetings regarding the plan?
Yes, there will be. We'll be announcing some dates before the holidays here, but we do intend to have several in the winter and spring.
Okay, thank you. And I bring this up because the tree canopy and the funds that we're allocating for all kinds of green initiatives, that is a good time to express input. You know, they're talking about the city plan in the next 5 years and going into the long-term future. So it's a great opportunity for residents to give input to how the city is going to look in the future, near and far. As Dearborn's master plan is established, I believe it should have a tree component in it, an environmental component in it. And we have yet to see if that's going to be, how that's going to be carried out. We also have to increase public education about the benefits of trees to those who aren't necessarily sitting in the audience tonight or watching on television because this is an important issue to them. We can't take it for granted what we do today, how it's going to impact the future of our city and the environment around us and around the world. I'm encouraged that the current administration is activating the Environmental Commission that's been on the books for years. And they had a record number of applicants. They had over 60 applicants apply to be on that commission. And from what we were told at a recent council meeting, it looks like they plan to meet probably the beginning of 2025. So again, that's an opportunity for residents to give input into the environment here in Dearborn, including trees, going forward. I'm hoping that committee, or in another way we can establish, that commission, the Environmental Commission, or in another way we can establish a tree committee where people can give formal input into what we can be doing through initiatives beyond just ordinances, which is the responsibility of the city council, and allocate funds as needed. And that would be the city council working on the budget going forward for planting more trees. One of those things I'd like to see is that we allocate funds next year and continue to seek grants so that any person, any house that wants to put a tree on their easement where there is not one now can get a free tree. Right now, the only free trees are available to those whose trees have been cut down this year. So we need to dedicate funds to make that possible for anybody who wants to put a tree on their easement. But again, that's public property and not the private property we're discussing in this ordinance tonight. But it all goes hand in hand, and I know is a concern to everyone who's expressed comments both tonight and at previous council meetings. So I thank the administration again for the vision that they have in trying to address these concerns, because it's not just the community that we live in today that we want to enjoy the environment that we live in, but it's for our children and all those going forward. And so again, the city, the city plan and our public meetings are a good opportunity to give public input for those things.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Just to clarify, our deputy directors here, and Mayor, you can speak to us. Under the mayor, just to clarify one thing, under the new administration, we have not charged for a single easement tree.
Correct.
So let me
Even
just
if we don't
say it,
replace
let's
a tree.
make sure,
Yeah.
because I want to make sure we clarify. The trees in the past administration was a $175 cost to the resident on the city property easement. We have not charged a single person under your administration.
Correct. If you have, even if it's just bare right now and there's not a tree to be removed, we're happy to provide you one. If
Does not have to be removed. The removal, so we didn't get confused, the removal happened under the past administration. The removal of trees during construction did not have an automatic replacement component, which the last council voted on to automatically, and it's been abided by. So I just want the residents to know, because I did a CDTV with an arborist, and we went over the whole thing. So it's on CDTV if you'd like to check it out. If you want a tree in front of your house, it is no charge, because we had a grant and we do have enough trees to supply them. So I just want to make sure we clarify that. So there is no charge. In the past, it was $175. Am I correct, Mayor? Okay, so I just want to make sure we get that clarified. If you have a spot in the front of your house, it's not on your property, and you want a tree, please call the city and we will bring one right away. I might even come with it. All right. Any other questions or comments on the trees? Councilman Abraham.
I'm going to repeat what I said a couple weeks ago regarding this ordinance and personal property and private property rights. It's a difficult balance trying to weigh the priorities of the community and the priorities of property rights. People have property rights when they own real estate. We don't have to like it, but they do have the right to cut down trees, or plant trees for that matter. They have the right to prioritize swimming pools or recreation equipment over trees. You're entitled to that when you buy property and you live in Dearborn. Again, I think we have a very strong voice out here of people that are against that, but I will say that there's a proverb I like in this analogy, keep your eye on the donut, not the hole. The trees coming down are not the problem. Trees are going to come down. Council President spoke to it right up front. Trees die, they get struck by lightning, people cut them down. It's inevitable. I think the focus needs to be on how do we net positive replace trees in our community. There's plenty of green space, whether it's schools, parks, vacant lots, areas of the city that are readily available for tree planting. I could tell you from what I've heard from my colleagues over the last 4 or 5 weeks, we're not going to prevent homeowners from cutting down trees on their personal property.
There's never been.
It's just not going to happen. And we hear you loud and clear out there. As much as we'd like to preserve trees that are assets in our neighborhoods, we can't, and we won't. But I think the focus and the energy has to be on then what? Then what do you do when a tree comes down in your neighborhood? How do we do that as a community? How do we do that as a government? And we've already spoken to many of those ideas. But the real key is every year we have to plant more trees than we lose. And that has to be our focus. This ordinance is not going to save the canopies. I think we issued, at the last meeting, I think we issued only 120 permits year to date. I think that was calendar year to date, 24, which means if you think that 10 times as many trees came down without permits, that's 1,200 trees, okay? We need to do better than that. If 1,200 trees came down on private property, we need to replace those trees net positive. And that needs to be the focus, because they're coming down with or without a permit, with or without this ordinance. We've had ordinances for 20 years and trees came down. Legally, illegally, you can say what you want. With this ordinance, if it's adopted, whether a tree's cut down with a permit or without a permit, it's gonna come down. Now, the people might get fined if they don't get the permit, but if they apply for the permit, they're going to get it and take the tree down. So, again, I'll just leave it at that. Let's keep our eye on the donut, not the hole. Let's replace trees faster than they're coming down in our community.
Thank you, Councilman. All right, Mr. Clerk, can we have the second and final reading with the amendment? Mr. Roma will provide it, that was offered by Councilman Hamud and supported by Councilman Abraham.
This is the final reading of ordinance number 24-1823, an ordinance to amend the licenses and business regulations chapter 12 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Dearborn by amending Article 24 entitled Tree Removal and Replacement.
All right, Mr. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Hamud.
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham.
Yes.
Councilmember Paris.
Yes.
Councilmember El Sawafi.
Yes.
Councilmember Herrick.
Yes.
Council President Sereni.
Yes.
Councilmember Enos.
Yes.
7 yeas, the ordinance passes.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Next item.
Item 17, ordinance number 24-1824, introduced by Councilmember Enos. Synopsis, an ordinance to amend the licenses and business regulations chapter 12 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Dearborn by amending section 12-6 entitled License Fees. Resolution by Councilmembers El Sawafi and Hamud to table the ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. In order to streamline and encourage the licensing of your pets, it is recommended to update our licensing fee to align with proposed changes in ordinance section 4-23 and changes to section 12-6 to the following. This was also worked in cooperation with the Friends of Animal Shelter of Metro Detroit. A tiered fee structure was created for all 3 types of license that will take effect on April 1st, 2025. A 1-year dog license will move to a $20 permit for unsterilized dogs with no microchip, $15 for an unsterilized dog with a microchip, and $10 for a sterilized dog with a microchip. We also included a 3-year dog license, which is a $60 fee for unsterilized dogs with no microchip, $45 for unsterilized dogs with no microchip, and then $30 for a sterilized dog with a microchip. We also came, under recommendation of the Friends of Animal Shelter, a lifetime dog license with no expiration for $100 with a microchip. All licenses require proof of rabies. This is the first of two readings. Any questions or comments on this item?
Rabies vaccination, not proof of rabies.
Is it? Oh, is it? Proof.
That would be interesting.
Thank you, Mayor. Proof of vaccination. You got that, Jake?
Yes.
All right. I'm misreading, right? Vaccination, absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. No, we do appreciate the partnership with the animal shelter working with us on this, and we are actually looking to put this in our council connection to get more people to register their pets. So this is the first of two readings. Any questions or comments? Mayor? I'm sorry. Mr. Clerk?
Yes. Thanks. Thanks for the
I thought you had
promotion. I got a couple minor things. I know it's the first reading, so we'll have time to clear it up between the first and
Yes.
second reading. First of all, there's no category for sterilized without a chip. There's a category for sterilized with a chip, but not a category for sterilized without a chip for either 1 year or 3 year. So we need to, between now and then, put that in there as well.
All right, Jackie, if you could make a note of that, and we'll send it to the
Well, but
council.
if I may, it's a companion piece to the code that we're proposing to be revised. And if you look in the next item.
Yes.
Those categories are in that item. So they're being proposed in the code update. This is the fee section.
Okay, gotcha.
So these two correlate to one another.
Okay,
All right.
that's the one you were talking about, we talked on the phone about earlier?
Well, no, that's 17. That
Okay.
relates to the tree. But there are two here. We're updating the fees, and
Okay.
then we're incorporating the sterilization piece and the license of 1, 3, and lifetime into the actual code itself.
Okay, so there's no necessary to change?
Right.
Okay.
It's in the next update, the next
Okay,
item.
and then the last thing I have is that we did have a conversation with the Department of Agriculture, and they said, based on state law, there is no lifetime membership. It's not allowed.
Oh.
According to the Department of Agriculture, they said that the state of Michigan does not allow a lifetime license.
Okay, so, what we'll do is I'll refer that portion to the city attorney.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Mr. Romer will get back with us on that, and we'll, like you said, it's a first reading, we'll be able to
Yeah,
amend it.
yeah, I appreciate it, thank you.
All right, Mr. Romer, you'll have that, and Jackie, you have that task. All right. Any other questions or comments from my colleagues?
I got one. Yes.
Councilman Enos?
Just want to mention, this doesn't include cats.
That is true. There is, it does not include cats, and my understanding is there's a lot more cats coming in than dogs.
Cats get a free ride.
They do get a free ride.
Just-
We're gonna have to figure something out with that. Thank you. All right, can we have the first of two readings, Mr. Clerk?
This is the first reading of ordinance number 24-182, an ordinance to amend the licenses and business regulations, chapter 12 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Dearborn by amending section 12-6 entitled License Fees.
All right. Any objection to unanimous roll? Hearing and seeing none, unanimous roll should be attached. Next item.
Item 18, ordinance number 24-1825, introduced by Councilmember Herrick. Synopsis, an ordinance to amend the Animals Chapter 4 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Dearborn by amending Section 4-23 entitled License Required, Number of Dogs Allowed. Resolution by Council Members Al Sawafi and Abraham to table the ordinance.
You're given, yeah. All right, thank you, Mr. Clerk. The recently approved animal shelter contract contains a provision that gives the shelter authority to issue and collect dog license fees on behalf of the City of Dearborn. The shelter will apply a credit against the city fees under the contract for the full amount of the license fee collected. The proposed changes do the following: allow the animal shelter to accept applications for dog license to align with paragraph 3 of the animal shelter contract, which authorizes the shelter to issue and collect the fees on behalf of the city. Beginning April 1st, 2025, there shall be 3 types of dog license, which we stated in the previous ordinance. And we also created authority for a reduced application fee upon proof submitted of the time of application that the dogs are spayed or neutered, and a companion amendment, which is 12.6, to reflect the revisited fees. Additional titles to subsections in the ordinance to make it more user-friendly as well. This is the first of 2 readings. Any questions or comments on this item? Okay. Hearing and seeing none, Mr. Clerk, can we have the first reading?
This is the first reading of ordinance number 24-1825, an ordinance to amend the Animals Chapter, Chapter 4 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Dearborn by amending Section 4-23 entitled License Required, Number of Dogs Allowed.
All right. If there's any objection to unanimous roll? Hearing, seeing none, unanimous roll should be attached. Next item.
Item 19, resolution by council members Paris and Abraham awarding a contract to Friends of the Rouge in the amount of $666,920 for rain garden management and construction valid through December of 2027 and requesting immediate effect.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clerk. The City of Dearborn is looking to do several large rain garden projects with a portion of its Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery, which is CBDG-DR funds. Funding is targeted heavily flooded areas in northeast and southeast sections of the city. The city is currently identifying strategic locations and conducting site assessments in these heavy flood-prone zones. The city is looking at locations in city parks, city-owned vacant land, and city-owned parking lots as well. Rain gardens are inexpensive and simple to implement, an environmentally sound solution to urban stormwater runoff. The city of Dearborn desires assistance and program support from the Disaster Recovery, or DR, Rain Gardens program. The evaluation team, on behalf of the Economic Development Department, recommends the award of a contract to the Friends of the Rouge, to provide administration, planning, site assessment, and design, construction, and implementation, as well as public outreach for several large rain gardens in the city planning construction. The total cost is $666,920. These services will be charged to Project B24200 and Project B24201. The contract shall be valid through December of 2027 and is requested that the council authorize the award. Any questions or comments on the rain gardens? Councilwoman Herrick.
Thank you, Council President. It's my understanding, when we talked about this at the committee of the whole meeting on Thursday, I asked about teaching rain garden courses is listed in here. And I think it's wonderful that our employees are going to have the opportunity to learn from the experts at Friends of the Rouge, to get a Master Gardener certification for the employees who are interested. I'm wondering if I don't know how big the classes are going to be or how that's going to be structured, but if there's an opportunity, might we be able to offer that opportunity to residents if there's space in the classes?
Mayor?
I'll take it back to purchasing to talk with the organization when the time comes. It depends on what was in the RFP.
Okay.
All right,
So I think that it'd be great if people had that opportunity. So thank you for looking into it.
Of course.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, hearing and seeing none, unanimous roll shall be attached. Next item.
Item 20, resolution by council members Herrick and Abraham awarding a 3-year contract to the ASU Group in the annual amount of $15,000 for a third-party administrator services for the city's general liability and casualty insurance and requesting immediate effect.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. The city does not currently have a third-party or TPA administrator for its general liability and casualty insurance, similar to services provided for city's workman's compensation TPA. The request of a TPA to provide full-service claim handling and support, including claim reporting related to general liability and casualty insurance with experiences the highest number of potential and most expensive claims. The law department recommends authorizing a contract with the ASU Group for the city's general liability and casualty insurance for a 3-year period for a cost of $15,000. The contract is procured through a competition exception because of the specialized professional legal services that is required. It is requested the council authorize the award with immediate effect upon continued satisfaction of performance by the provider. Any questions or comments on this item? Okay, any objection to unanimous roll? Okay, unanimous roll shall be attached. Next item.
Item 21, resolution by council members Abraham and El Sawafi authorizing a cooperative contract purchase from Traffic Logic via the Sourcewell Cooperative Program, contract number 070821-LGX, in an amount not to exceed $177,060 for the purchase of radar feedback signs, traffic calming materials, and requesting immediate effect.
All right, these are, thank you, Mr. Clerk. I know we do have some photos on the screen, should be coming up shortly here. These are 2 items pertaining to traffic calming measures. There you go. The city of Dearborn received a appropriation from the Michigan Department of Public Health and Human Services, or MDHHS, for $3,166,700 to support implementation initiatives to promote health and safety in the Dearborn community. The city intends to use the funds for several initiatives, including public safety projects to improve non-motor safety, mobility, and comfort. The traffic calming initiatives design and reduce vehicle speed near parks, schools, and high-volume traffic areas to be utilized by multiple road users. The speed radar design signs purchased from Traffic Logic will increase driver awareness of speeds. The signs are designed to alert drivers of their speed and awareness, to include custom text, animated graphics, and integrated strobe lights. This is intended to bring distracted drivers' attention back to their speed. The signs will be deployed in the residential streets areas of high traffic volumes where speeding has been a concern. The signs are solar-powered with semi-permanent mounted on the post, and the radars also collect traffic-related data that can further enhance our traffic calming efforts. The requested amount is $177,060. The police department, in conjunction with purchasing, recommends the award of purchase for this via cooperative contract to Traffic Logic for these calming materials, not to exceed $177,060. This will be a one-time purchase, and is requested that the council authorize this purchase with immediate effect to expedite the orders. As we had seen earlier, some residents has already come up and vouched for these signs. If you haven't seen them in the areas, they're starting to pop up, and they really catch your attention. You'll get a lighted stop sign, and the speed. I know, Mayor, you have talked about that there has been reductions already noticed. When you do notice it's a flashing speed, it does help the measures. Mayor?
Yeah, so with the flashing stop sign, the first one's actually installed over at Brady and Morley.
Yeah.
And so that was the first one that we located kind of as a pilot of the program. It's been successful so far, and so we want to expand this across the region. The great thing about this is we received a substantive grant from the state of Michigan to allow us to make these investments. As it pertains to speed humps, which is in some of the purchases as well, we installed those in 3 pilot areas at Lapeer Park, Hemlock Park, and Levigut Park. And we found substantial reduction. In fact, at some of those parks, I think something like 0.1% of drivers in the area now speed around those parks. So it's substantially reduced, 99% compliance, which is as good as you can ask for. So we're hoping to expand these pilot programs across other parks and school areas in the district, as well as installing the LED stop signs where they make sense. Our traffic officer, Galuska, within the police department, has been working with our public health department. We have a substantive list of where these should go, as well as around some of our senior towers and senior buildings across the city. So we're excited to have these installed.
Thank you, Mayor. This is just a good example for the residents that there is no one-all fix for anything. I think, Mayor, that's been a highlight of the administration yourself. The ticket writing has increased hundreds of %, and it's all on our dashboard. But this also, it's the speed bumps. I know at one point you had many requests for speed bumps. Almost everybody.
We had over 1,000 requests. You can't do them in every residential.
Yeah, they want a speed bump everywhere.
Because then you can't plow the snow or salt the road, and we actually, 20% of them get damages each year, so it'd be really expensive to replace. We choose a speed hump, which our police vehicles and fire vehicles can go over safely. And you also don't want them on emergency routes because it can also slow down the response times.
Right.
So.
Of course, Mayor, I think the big thing to take back for the residents is there's not a silver bullet to fix traffic issues. It's a multifaceted approach, and I think we're doing it. I think I'm very proud of the administration and the council supporting these initiatives. When you see these stop signs, these speed meters, the speed humps, and of course the traffic enforcement escalated to record numbers, and our courts dealing with them has really made a difference. And again, it does take time to get through this traffic aspect. But I think what you see from this administration and this council is a proactive measure, and we're not sitting back. And there's nothing we can do for you regarding speeding. We are doing, and it's a multifaceted. So again, thank you, Mayor, for these. And I can tell you, the lady said, I live on Brady. It brings your attention right to it. There's no way you can't see these flashing signs. So this is just another good part. Any other questions or comments? Or any objection to unanimous roll? Unanimous roll should be attached. Next item.
Item 22, resolution by council members Enos and Herrick, authorizing a cooperative contract purchase from TAPCO via the Omnia Partners Cooperative Program, contract number 2020-200, in an amount not to exceed $253,536 for the purchase of illuminated stop signs and beacon systems traffic calming materials, and requesting immediate effect.
Hi, this is just another component piece with the city of Dearborn is appropriating the funds for the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and supporting the implementation to promote health and safety in the city of Dearborn and the community. The products purchased through TEPCO are designed, there they are, to increase safety for the road users and intersections. Again, solar powered as we indicated. And the drivers are expected to approach high visibility crosswalks at lower speeds with greater prudence. TEPCO will also provide signage for posted other traffic calming projects, such as the speed humps we indicated, and raised crosswalks, which is a new initiative as well. The requested amount is $253,000. Is that, oh yeah, that's the crosswalks right there on the screen. $253,536. The police department, in conjunction with purchasing, recommends the award of the purchase via the cooperative contract for TEPCO for tram and calming measures. The value of the contract is not to exceed $253,536 and is a one-time purchase, and is requested the council authorize this as with immediate effect. Any questions or comments on this? Any objection, unanimous roll? Okay, unanimous roll should be attached. Next item.
Item 23, resolution by council members Abraham and Enos, awarding a contract to Nationwide Construction Group in the amount of $582,650 with a 5% contingency in the amount of $29,133 for a total in the amount of $611,783 for the installation of gates and fencing at the Wagner parking deck and the 2 parking decks on West Village Drive.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clerk. The installation of these access gates and safety fencing is to address the ongoing concerns about improper use of parking areas. In the past, people have recklessly driven in parking areas causing safety concerns. Additionally, people have accessed top of Wagner parking deck and thrown objects off and litter, which is also a safety concern. Installing the safety fences around the top level will prevent this from occurring in the future. Having the ability to control access and to document who is entering the parking areas will reduce the possibility of disorderly conduct occurring as well. The Public Works and Facility Department, in conjunction with purchasing, recommends the issue of a contract for the installation of these gates, fencing at the Wagner parking deck and the 2 parking structures on West Village Drive to National Construction Group. The value of the contract is $582,650 with an additional 5%, which is $29,133. Contingency is requested as well, of course, with the authorization from the council. Any questions or comments on this item? Councilman Hamud.
Yeah, I think this is a really good item, and I'm glad that you guys are bringing it forward. I know that parking in West Dearborn downtown has gotten a lot worse since Ford employees came back to the office, and I think people don't realize that we've been underutilizing 1/3 of the parking deck capacity because we've been closing the top due to people hanging off the side of the parking deck, doing donuts up there and things like that, and we've had to utilize a lot of police overtime to try and deal with that. Now, while I don't necessarily think this is going to solve all of our problems, I'll be clear about that, I think it's an excellent step in the right direction, especially the fencing, and I hope that that'll enable us to open up at least the top of the deck. And then I did have some IT concerns, okay, but I was personally guaranteed by Chief of Staff, who's not here, that you guys are going to make sure to sort that out with Ford Land to my and everybody else's future Ford employees' liking, where it actually works when you put your badge.
Only for Ford employees, nobody else.
Well, considering that structure is supposed to be dedicated to the offices that are next door, that I don't even agree should be offices. I think they should be lofts, but that's my personal opinion. But you know, I just want to make sure that we as a city are being good stewards of our previous agreements to make sure that it works for the employees who are supposed to be there. You know, so
absolutely.
Thank you guys.
Absolutely, and then Councilman Hamud did bring this up, and for the chief as well, the police chief, folks, it's almost impossible to have an officer standing 24 hours a day on top of for these
Shouldn't
youth,
have to.
people going up and driving around in circles and so on and so forth. So this is again another measure where we are being proactive and trying to find ways that we can minimize this. So we do hear the concerns, and it is a great thing that people are coming to the downtown, but it does mean we have to do some more measures to make sure that we keep everything in line. So I do appreciate this item as well. Any objection to unanimous roll? Okay. Unanimous roll should be attached. Next item.
Item 24, resolution by council members Paris and Enos, authorizing a sole source purchase from Vestil Manufacturing Corporation, the amount not to exceed $180,000 for the purchase of 300 speed humps and requesting immediate effect.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clerk. Again, this item is just another companion. This one is for the speed humps for Vestal Manufacturing Corporation to provide near our parks, schools, and other city streets where data supports that prevailing speeds exceed 25 miles an hour. The pilot speed hump program was proven to reduce 85% percentile speeds of less than 25 miles an hour, which is a substantial reduction, folks. And again, Mayor, I do appreciate that. We talked about it earlier, but putting speed humps in and then actually getting data back that how it's working is the right way to allocate funds. So they're now requesting 300 additional speed humps and authorize the contract not to exceed $180,000. Again, with immediate effect by the council. Any questions or comments on the speed humps? Okay, Councilman Paris?
Thank you, Council President. I'd just like the public to understand that we've already discussed several different items just on this council agenda in regards to public safety initiatives. This is an incredible amount of money that's been dedicated over the life of this council and administration already towards law enforcement, public safety, the fire department, dispatch, wages, everything. There has never been any inkling of an intent or even a discussion by me individually, and I believe I can speak probably for the council to defund the police.
For yourself.
Okay, I'll do it for
I know,
myself.
I just have to clarify because we've been having some problems.
Okay, I understand. There has never been any kind of inkling whatsoever about defunding police. Just on these items here tonight, you're talking over $600,000. And in just in the past few weeks, we've had the addition expenditures for flock cameras, within the city and new vehicles for the fire department and the police department. We're talking about millions of dollars of expenditures. So I do commend the police and fire and the administration for having the thought about it. These speed humps are near and dear to me. Back on the Traffic Commission, when I was on that, we really brought it forward about Livonia and Ann Arbor and some other cities that were taking some measures in regards to traffic calming. So now, several years later, or a number of years later, here we are. Progress is slow, and we still have a lot of work to do, but it's coming. And just have some patience, and I really appreciate seeing the 300. It's not the 11,000 plus that Detroit has, and do we really want that on every street and that appearance of that? But we're working on it, so thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Pierce.
Just
Mayor?
one comment. I'm going to say, just so I don't forget them, the department behind this is the Public Health Department. This is their grant funding. I know you're not the biggest fan of this department. I haven't supported them yet, but I would say that without the Public Health Department, we would not be able to have drawn down these dollars. This is actually a public health grant from the Health and Human Services Department of the state of Michigan that our Public Health Department received. They're allocating $1.2 million towards traffic calming measures in collaboration with obviously fire, police, and DPW, and so kudos to them as well.
We do appreciate it, Mayor. That we don't want to lose sight of that. That is a very good point. This is a health grant for health and safety, so we do appreciate it. And Councilman Pierce, thanks for bringing that forward. That it was brought forward many times under your jurisdiction, but to no avail. And under the mayor, the current administration, we did a pilot program, and it's been very successful. So we do appreciate that. Councilman Hammoud, you had something to add?
Yeah, I think there's two things I'd like to point out with this contract specifically. One is I really like the low cost that purchasing managed to put together because we're going to be installing them ourselves. So at about $600 a speed bump, that's actually pretty great, honestly. So I was actually really impressed by that. So good job to purchasing a DPW for figuring that one out. And then two is I really like that the placement was data-driven. Projects like this are kind of like what I rant about all the time, what I want the city to do. So, I got to give you credit when you do things right. As the same way I rag on you guys when I have problems. So that was excellent, and I really appreciated you guys have the locations of all the speed bumps, and we kind of requested in one of the study sessions on this topic to get a map of some of those locations so that residents get to see. 300. It's going to make a real impact around a lot of the major places where we know we have speeding already. So I know everybody wants a speed bump on their street, and inshallah we can work on that one. But right now we're deploying it in the most fiscally responsible and data-driven manner, and I really appreciate that we're doing it that way instead of just based on who yells the loudest. So that's nice.
That is true. We do appreciate it. Any other questions or comments? Any objection, unanimous roll? Unanimous roll should be attached. Next item.
Item 25, resolution by council members Herrick and Enos accepting the fiscal year 2023 FEMA Assistance to Firefighters Grant Fire Prevention and Safety Award in the amount of $132,266.66, with the local match in the amount of $6,613.94. Also authorizing the finance director to recognize the revenue in the amount of $132,267 and appropriate funds in the amount of $138,880, which includes the city match in the amount of $6,613.94 in the general fund, fire department, authorizing to add one part-time GIS analyst in the fire department's staffing model and requesting immediate effect.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clerk. The Dearborn Fire Department has recently been awarded a highly competitive fiscal year 2023 FEMA Assistance to Firefighters Grant Award in the total amount of $138,880. The federal portion of the grant is 95%, and the local match is the city's portion of $6,613.94, which is 5%. This fund will be utilized to purchase sealed lithium-ion battery-operated smoke alarms and to fund a part-time GIS analyst position in the fire department for 2 years. Chief, would you like to come forward on this?
Good evening, council.
Thank you, Chief. For myself, I just want the residents to know, I know that for years I worked with you regarding the internship program and the expansion of this and how much it's helped us. But I also had an opportunity to go a few years out on the installing of these.
Yep.
I did need a little bit bigger ladder than the other guys, but I got them installed. And I'll tell you, folks, I'd like the chief to speak to this. We do offer this program, and I know you've been successful several times. So I'd like to give the residents a little bit more. People don't know these are free to our residents, and we install them, and they last 10 years. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. So the program initially started in 2016. We had about 4 or 5 fatal fires.
Yes.
And all of those had no working smoke alarms. And actually, a few of them had smoke alarms. They just weren't working. The batteries were taken out. So we dedicated ourselves to really trying to solve that problem. So we've applied for grant funding ever since to get these smoke alarms provided to us. They do come with a sealed lithium-ion battery. They're good for 10 years. So once they're up, you don't have to monkey around with them, do anything with them for 10 years, and then we keep records. So at the 10-year mark, we'll follow up with the residents as well. We have seen a decrease in our fatalities in that, but unfortunately, we did recently just have a fire fatality where there was no working smoke alarm in that residence. So there's still a number of residents out there. To date, I think we've hit over 2,600 homes with, I think, over 15,000 smoke alarms.
15,000.
Yeah, so it's been a very successful program, and it's open to all residents, Dearborn and Melvindale. They can just call the fire department.
So how do they get it, Chief? Yeah, and how if you don't mind, because I'd like them to put this on the screen in the future, because like I said, under your direction, I went out and did this, and I was surprised. You know, as most of the people know, when you do any remodeling and stuff, a lot of these smoke detectors are cold, they're required, they have to be hardwired batteries. In a lot of our homes, which our council was aware that 75%, I think, was told by economic development, are over 50 years old. The homes in the city of Dearborn, they don't have this technology. This battery solves all that issue, and they can put it wherever they want. So how could a resident get one or two?
Sure, they can call the fire department's general number at 313-943-2277. We'll just take a date and a time that works for the resident, and we can. We're very flexible, so we can send our crews out. The whole process takes about a half hour. We install the smoke alarms, and we give the resident just a little bit of education materials about fire safety and how to get out in the case of a fire. But it's been really successful. We follow up with the quality control, and we've gotten all positive feedback since we started. So.
And just for the residents too, this is done by our interns.
Yep, our fire cadet program handle it. So, and typically our hours that we install these are Monday through Friday, normal business hours. We do make some exceptions in cases of hardship, if we can do a weekend or later at night, but generally regular business hours. Monday
Exactly, and they're qualified to tell them where they located, right? Because I mean, you can't just put them anywhere.
Yeah, we train all our firefighters on FPA recommendations, and we go over that with the homeowner as well.
Excellent. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? All right, thank you very much, Chief, for your work. I do appreciate this since 2016, so I do appreciate that. All right, any objection to unanimous roll? Unanimous roll shall be attached. Next item.
Item 26, resolution by council members Herrick and Abraham authorizing the finance director to recognize and appropriate additional state court administrative office grant funding in the amount of $2,421 to fund the 19th District Hybrid DWI Drug Treatment Court through the end of fiscal year 2024 and requesting immediate effect.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clerk. The 19th District Court applied for additional funding reallocation grant thought through the State Court Administration Office, or SCAO, on July 16, 2024, to fund the hybrid DWI drug treatment program court through the end of fiscal year 2024. The grant funds awards will cover increased expenses related to the regular operations of the HDDTC, which is the 19th District Dearborn Hybrid Drug DUI Drug Treatment Court. In requesting authorization for the finance director to authorize and appropriate $2,421 in grant award funding from SCAO, from the State Court Administrator, and the grant period is from October 1st, 2023 through September 30th, 2024. There's no local match requirement, and is requested the council authorize the grant award with immediate effect. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? The court administrator is here. Okay. Any objection to unanimous roll? All right, thank you very much. We appreciate this. Unanimous roll shall be attached. Next item.
Item 27, resolution by council members Enos and Hamud concurring in the appointment of Cheryl Hawkins to the Library Commission with a term ending June 30th, 2027, and requesting immediate effect.
All right, this appointment is to appoint Dr. Cheryl Hawkins to the Library Commission for a 3-year term. The term will be ending June 30th, 2027. This is a multi-family body appointee to possess, they must possess all required qualifications for appointment by the charter or law, shall result in the members' immediate vacancy for a multi-body to which they are appointed. Again, folks, these boards and commissions are extremely important and are all volunteers, so we'd like to thank Dr. Hawkins for coming up and taking this portion at the library. So the library has taken a lot more role. And Mayor, as you know, under your administration, you had merged the Historic Commission in there, so the library is growing. It's not the library where you used to drop a pencil and they throw you out. That's not happening no more. We're coming more in tune, and the library is moving forward. A city without a library or a library system is not a really good functioning city. So we have supported it. The residents have supported it with tax millage, and they continue to grow. So the board is very, very important. So we do appreciate your service, and to all our commissioners that do serve. Any questions or comments? Any objection to unanimous roll? Unanimous roll shall be attached. Next item.
Item 28, resolution by council members Sereni and Hamud approving the request of the mayor to rename the city-owned public spaces of Hubbard West, Hubbard East, the historical offices, and the Rotunda Gallery at the Henry Ford Centennial Library to honor exceptional community members who have made lasting contributions pursuant to Council Resolution 3-84-20.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. So this has been a long time coming. The current namesakes of Hubbard East and Hubbard West, formerly after Orville Hubbard, held office during a period when segregation policies were enacted, which are now incompatible with Dearborn's commitment to inclusion. Renaming these spaces aligns with our values and honors those that have actively contributed to a more inclusive community. Dearborn is a city that champions inclusion, diversity, and respect to all residents in pursuit of their values. We propose renaming the following city spaces to honor exceptional community members who have made lasting contributions. So the renaming will be as follows: the Hubbard Manor West, renamed in honor of former Mayor John B. O'Reilly Jr., who dedicated his life to public service, and his family and legacy has significant impacted in the city of Dearborn. Hubbard Manor East be recognized to be renamed Suzanne Sereni, who is the first Arab American elected to the Dearborn City Council and served in distinction for over 24 years. Historical offices to be renamed in honor of Jack Tate, our chief curator of the Dearborn Historical Museum, whose dedication to preserving Dearborn's history and enhancing its culture and landscape has been unmatched. The Rotunda Gallery of the Henry Ford Centennial Library will be renamed to celebrate artistic legacy of Irma Jean Woodyard, a driving force in Dearborn's vibrant arts community. By renaming these city spaces, we take significant steps towards honoring the exceptional individuals who embody the best of Dearborn. These actions reaffirm our commitment to equity, respect, and the future which all residents feel valued and respected. These changes will require updates in signage and informational materials as well. And I know that we have some comments regarding this, and of course, the one is for myself as my mom. As many of you know, she served 24 years, and Dr. James Zogby of the Arab American Institute has documented that she is the first Muslim elected woman in the United States in the country. So it's a great heritage that I wanted to continue for my mom and her family, so it's a big honor. I asked her to come tonight. She didn't want to come, Jack. You're the only one that can get her out, Jack, for those videos. I can't get her to come out, but we do appreciate that. I appreciate my colleagues that do support this and the mayor that has supported this. I think it's a long time coming. Before I open it to my colleagues, there is some residents. Yep, we're going to get them in order. If you just give them the card. First, we have Cheryl Cooper. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Cheryl Cooper, 24450 Michigan Avenue. First, let me say I have no problem with any of the people you're naming. Those after, I respect all of them and love every one of them.
Thank you.
Regarding the Hubbard legacy, his statue was removed, his portrait was removed, and now his name from buildings. Everyone may not view his legacy through the same lens, but all current residents are directly benefiting from the foundation Hubbard created for this city. We would like some type of an agreement to preserve Hubbard's name in at least some Dearborn locations as part of these proposed changes. This should be recognized as a compromise respecting all Dearborn residents. Dearborn has residents that want his legacy preserved and believe it is a racist move to completely erase his contribution to the city.
Thank you very much. Ms. Cooper. Next, we have Kathleen Smith.
Hi, Kathleen Smith, 21800 Morley Avenue, Dearborn. Thank you, council members, on behalf of the following comment for public record. Regarding the memo on proposed name changes that remove Mayor Hubbard's name, the Hubbard name is important to Dearborn residents, and it is important to Dearborn history. I, as many others, are concerned in terms of Mayor Hubbard's public service and how these proposed actions appear to erase his legacy. These proposals also diminish the public acknowledgement of other Hubbard family members who, by the way, continue to provide public service with distinction now and over the past several decades. Mayor Hubbard's statue has been removed, and now without input from the public, Mayor Hubbard's name will be removed. This also sets a precedent for future names to be erased as well. We should all be concerned as residents and public servants. Many may not view Mayor Hubbard equally, but to be clear, all residents are directly benefiting from the foundation Mayor Hubbard created for this city to thrive. Mayor Hubbard's name should be preserved and acknowledged in some way, or at least be agreed upon to be preserved. There at least should be some type of compromise to all of this. All residents should at least have or have had a say in this matter. Mayor Hubbard was a public servant for several decades, one of the longest-running mayors in history. He consistently served the interests of Dearborn residents through times of controversy and social change. He made decisions on investments on behalf of all residents in Dearborn, not just some. Though the others are well deserving of their name being used and recognized, I ask that you consider Mayor Hubbard's legacy to continue in some way. Thank you for your time and consideration on this subject.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Next, we have Nancy Abdul-Sader.
Hi, I'm Nancy Randazzo Abdul-Sader, 20907 Outer Drive. I'm here to really persuade you on this renaming thing. I've lived here for just 10 years, so I don't even really know Mayor Hubbard, but I saw there's only about 9 mayors that the city has had in the hallway like on the photo wall.
Yeah.
And just listening here, I hear like a lot of data being used, like in installing the speed humps or whatever. These have to do with behaviors, driving behaviors that change over time. But we're not serving citizens in aggregate or on a bell curve. We're serving individuals, and Mayor Hubbard was an individual that I haven't even really gotten to know, even though we've only had just a handful of mayors. All I've heard is about his statue coming down and that he was a racist and the city's history in this way. And I think that to really honor people who deserve to be honored in this way, replacing Mayor Hubbard's name isn't the right way to go about it. It seems very aggressive. He was a product of his era, an era that we all have to address. And he was an individual that, later, when we look at how data is being used to serve citizens, might be looked at as a form of racism. Because, like I said, these are individuals whose behaviors are changing over time. And even my own children, the way that they've been looked at, like with just stacks and stacks of data. And if you really want to honor individuals, you have to create new spaces, put names in new places for them, and not go replacing a former mayor's name, especially a new mayor, because then we can just go ahead in the future, because I'm a newer resident here, and replace all your names if you put it on anything. Like, it just gives permission to a whole new way of doing things that's aggressive towards history, and I just don't like it at all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your comments. All right, next we have Mr. Ali Dagger.
Good evening, Ali Dagger, 248 Town Hill in Dearborn. I moved here in 1977. When we first arrived in the United States, I lived on Amazon Street, and I had the pleasure of knowing your mom, and I worked on her campaign in 1985, I think, initially, and then I worked when she was elected in 1989. I also give a tremendous amount of credit to Mayor Riley. The man was really an incredible human being who served the public and did tremendous effort and tremendous work, going back to the Downriver Community Council work and some of the other things. I never met Mayor Hubbard. And by the way, Jack Tate is awesome. This guy knows more about. I'm the library commissioner, and we've just incorporated his group into his organization into ours.
Right.
Look, it's one thing to remember legacies, but it's another to be able to explain why is it that you're naming buildings after someone. You name buildings after someone to honor them. And despite the organizational magic that, called magic, that Hubbard did, and remember, he did this in a period of time where Ford Motor Company was rapidly growing. In fact, he almost bought the Ambassador Bridge. There's just a lot of history there. But you also have to remember what he did to people and the impact that he left, the terror that he did in terrorizing individuals and in producing a state in which he divided people by their race and by their color. That's not a legacy I'd be proud of. With all due respect, that's something that we have to put behind us, and that's something that we need to look forward to things. Let's honor people who really deserve, who really are part of the institutional governance of our city and have had significant impact moving forward in a diverse and an incredibly powerful way. This country was built on the backs of immigrants, and it was built on the backs of diversity, and diversity produces things that are incredible and are very positive. So I wholeheartedly support your endeavor.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Dagger, and appreciate your service as well. Thank you. We have, I believe, Johanna Seidel. Thank you.
So I'm Johanna Seidel, 21701 Morley Avenue in Dearborn, and I would just like to speak on Emma Jean Woodyard.
Yes.
Okay, so I have had the pleasure of volunteering alongside Emma Jean Woodyard for the past 12 years. Emma Jean is a dynamic force for the arts in Dearborn, and in the eyes of many, she is almost single-handedly responsible for nearly all the art that you see each day driving through the city. First, the murals created by student artists. There are 5 of them, all done through the efforts of a program Emma Jean created called Pockets of Perception. This initiative enabled high school students to participate in the creation of a mural placed in a chosen spot in the city. They are paid for their work, they're paid for their art, and all funding is raised by Emma Jean through the Dearborn Community Fund, of which she is executive director currently, a position from which she accepts no compensation. Other initiatives that she has been involved with or actually started include Art in Public Places. That is a program that placed sculpture throughout the city from 2011 until 2019. During that time, over 100 pieces of sculpture were exhibited. There was a sculpture horse called Gaze that Dave Bazzi, he was a former councilman, he purchased, and that was a result of that program because when he would be going to work out at the center, he saw it, and his wife loved it, and he bought it. She also started the Mayor's Arts Awards in 1987. They are still going strong to this day. This program recognizes community artists and their contribution to the city of Dearborn. Emma Jean also founded the Public Art Gallery in the Old City Hall in 1989 and was instrumental in the development of the Pajeski Gallery in the Ford Community and Performing Arts Center, which currently has 6 major exhibits per year. She also has the April Arts Month. She started that program, which celebrates in Dearborn art with open galleries throughout the city. She has set up a program called Youth and Arts, which happens during that month, bringing kids into the center to hear a symphony, an opera. The music choices always vary. Also, she has a student exhibit that is conducted on the common space in the Performing Arts Center and the gallery. It encompasses student art grades 5 to 12, and that stays up for the whole month.
You have 30 seconds.
Okay. Her efforts have drawn thousands of residents and visitors to events, exhibits, performances, and programs throughout the city. Naming the gallery in the Henry Ford Centennial Library in her honor would be a meaningful and well-deserved recognition. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, Chief Murray?
Council, thank you. 22 years I've been employed with the city of Dearborn. It's actually the first time I've spoken actually from the floor, not related to the fire department, but I just wanted to make a couple comments today just in support of Emma Jean, my buddy Jack over there, one of my favorite council members of all time, Suzanne Serini, and Mayor Jack O'Reilly. So I feel fortunate. I've been on long enough with the administration to be on deal with 4 councils. And I tell people all the time, this is a great council. 34 is a great council.
We might have to name something after you for
I like it. But I honestly tell people all the time, this is one of the greatest councils I work with. But a very close second, if not tied, it was the 31st council, and that was the last one your mom was on.
Yes.
A great council. She was, talk about someone that really made me feel welcome here. She's just a great person. So.
Thank you.
And I remember even George was on that one for a bit there.
Short time.
Yeah, so it was great. But what I really want to speak tonight is in my support for recognition of Mayor O'Reilly. So in the city like ours, we have a very storied history. You all probably know I'm kind of a history nerd myself. But we've had some really larger-than-life mayors here. And I think sometimes it's easy to, look at the larger-than-life ones, the, more flamboyant ones, the more pizzazz ones, political ones. And I think sometimes we don't give enough credit to the ones that were maybe more humble, more subdued. And Mayor O'Reilly was definitely one of those mayors, and his father as well. And I can tell you that without both of those gentlemen leading us through some very difficult times in our city, that we wouldn't be in the place we are today. So, just over 12 years ago, Mayor O'Reilly appointed me fire chief, and that's been one of the biggest blessings of my life. And I felt very fortunate to work for him. And, I could sit here and rattle off a list of his accomplishments, but I won't do that. But I just wanted to recognize Mayor O'Reilly for his profound dedication to the community. He taught me a lot in my 10 years that I served with him. He was not a politician. He was a public servant. And, having been on this campaign committee, I think I wish some election years he's maybe more of a politician. But he was not someone that was in his position for political gain. He never shied away from a decision. He was willing to make the tough decisions, even if he knew he was going to get flack for it from certain groups or whatever. Never worried about getting reelected. He just always made decisions based on what he thought was right for the city. One thing I always appreciated about Mayor O'Reilly was that he never wanted to hear about East End or West End or South End. It was always one Dearborn. And I thought that was always great. But like I said, throughout my time, I was able to see him interact with so many different communities in the region, national level. It was well respected by everybody. Had a lot of leadership roles, but Mayor O'Reilly never wanted the credit. He was a very humble mayor. He truly thought that it was his duty to do right by the Dearborn citizens, and he was a great mayor. He defended his department heads a lot from political attacks. He respected his team, respected his constituents. He was the first to speak against racism. Outsiders came to the city, tried to divide us, like Terry Jones, who took him on head on. He defended Dearborn in the media, false reports in the media. He was respectful of everybody. He treated everybody with dignity, never did the negative campaign ads, and his kindness rubbed off on everybody. And I personally think the city is a better city because of the O'Reillys, both senior and junior. I think we are a better, more resilient community because of the O'Reillys. And after a decade of working with Mayor O'Reilly, I know he would be the last to seek out such an honor like this. And I know he would be like super uncomfortable with just talking about this. So I think, this is a great, an appreciation of a great public servant. I just wanted to come up and just voice my support for the
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Mayor O'Reilly, and I'd like to thank the mayor, of course, Hammoud, for talking to the son and the family in detail. And as you said, when I started, he worked with my mom. He was on the council with the mayor, with the previous mayor, and Guido, and of course with Councilman Abraham. But you're absolutely right. He did have his way of doing things, but the one Dearborn, I think, Chief, was his staple. He really made sure that there was no divisions and to defend us in situations. And more importantly, some of us know on the council that came in when we had a lot of financial crisis and stuff, where he did work diligently to keep the city moving forward. So, as many had said here, I think everyone is deserving of this, and it's definitely time to do this. So I think it's a great honor. But thank you for coming up and speaking on Mayor O'Reilly's behalf.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. All right, Councilman Paris?
Council President?
Yes.
Thank you,
Yes.
and I really appreciate the comments from everyone for this matter that's before us. What I'd like to do, though, if at all possible, I'd like to make a motion to divide or split this item into 4 separate and distinct resolutions. And there is a reason that I wanted to ask for that, is all 4 locations and proposed naming should stand on its own merits after more discussion, whether it's a study session or doing this separately. But all 4 locations should be a standalone resolution for consideration of the city council and not lumped together for a single vote or for all at one fell swoop. So I'm asking for a motion to divide or split this item into 4 separate and distinct resolutions.
Okay, Mr. Romer has indicated the councilman is offering a resolution to be split in 4 separate resolutions to stand on its own. Is your opinion legally that that's legally feasible?
Yeah, I believe all can stand on their own, so he can proceed with the motion as long as he gets his support.
Right, and that's the legal aspect to it, is that it has to be able to stand on its own without any other component. So we have an offer by Councilman Paris.
Support.
Supported by Councilwoman Herrick. So this will supersede. Now we need a roll call vote. Is that correct, Mr. Romer?
Yeah, and it'll be controlled by a majority.
Right, so it's a majority. So a yes means that you agree to separate all 4. A no means that it stays as stated.
Can we make a statement before the vote?
No, we're the motion and offer, so then we're going to go ahead and do go ahead.
We can't make a comment about the motion?
Mr. Romer, it's not debatable, isn't that correct? This is a motion on the floor, motion and
To
offer.
divide is debatable. They can debate it.
So now it's, so once we have the support, it can be debated before the roll call?
No, once you have the offer in support, the motion becomes debatable if a council
Okay.
person would like to make a comment.
Okay, Councilwoman Herrick?
Okay, thank you.
That's fine.
I like the idea of separating these further, because it gives further recognition to those who we wish to honor through these renamings. Therefore, there's a resolution with each one of their names on each separate resolution. And I just think that's a very an honorable thing to do for them, is to recognize them individually rather than group together. This is such an important thing that we're doing, to recognize these people that have made such significant contributions over the last 50 years here in our city. And I think it does a disservice to have them all put together in one resolution. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this? Okay, Mr. Clerk, we have a roll call vote to split the question into 4 separate individual resolutions.
Okay, we'll start with Councilmember Abraham.
Yes.
Councilmember Paris.
Yes.
Councilmember El Sawafi.
No.
Councilmember Herrick.
Yes.
Council President Sereni.
No.
Councilman Enos.
No.
Councilman Hamud.
No.
There's 4 nays, the motion does not pass.
All right, so next we will proceed with the motion as drafted with all 4 at the same time. And Mr. Clerk, can we have a roll call vote for that? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Are we allowing any
Is
further
there
comment? or-
further?
We haven't closed
Mr.
the
Romer?
question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Are we allowing any further?
Yeah, let me just
comment?
make sure, Mr. Romer, what's the next procedure? I want to make sure we do it right procedurally, because we,
Yeah, with the offer and support, it's debatable, so council individuals can make comments related to this item as a collective group.
As a collective.
as it stands, because it was defeated.
Yeah, the motion to divide was defeated, so now you're discussing the actual item that was originally proposed.
Okay, so Mr. Parrish, you have something that?
Yeah, if I could, I just wanted to discuss about some of the names that have come before us and the locations of the city-owned property. And I have no doubt in my mind whatsoever that all 4 persons that are named and the locations are of concern to me, but all 4 unequivocally deserve an honor of being named in honor of their service to the city of Dearborn, and then their name placed on a city-owned property. What I wanted to make mention here just briefly, just so I have my understanding of the reasons why I'm doing this, I just want to make mention Suzanne Serini for the Hubbard Manor East, 24 years of Dearborn City Council, and the first Arab American elected to council. Her service to the community is certainly worthy of consideration now and into the future. And her contribution to our city is very significant and should be recognized and honored. Jack O'Reilly Jr. Is proposed for Hubbard Manor West. Backup material also made mention of the legacy of family service, citing his father, John B. O'Reilly Sr. Both are certainly worthy of honoring them in the naming of a public property. Mayor O'Reilly Jr. served with the U.S. Congressman John Dingell up to becoming his chief of staff. He served also as an elected Dearborn Council member for a number of years and as council president. And Jack O'Reilly served as mayor between 2007 and 2022, 15 years. I think it's significant to note at this particular time, though, that his father, John B. O'Reilly Sr., to mention in our backup materials, he worked under Mayor Orville Hubbard's tenure, and Sr. served under Mayor Hubbard as a director of Veterans Bureau and served as a director of civil defense. He served over a decade in the military and during World War II in Korea, also served in the Air National Guard, retired as a major. There's a reason why I'm bringing this up. Mayor O'Reilly Sr. went on to serve as Mayor Hubbard's chief of police and initiated many, many innovative and forward-thinking programs. Police Hotline, Neighborhood Watch, Special Operations Unit, Reserve Unit. He also helped to form the Police Cadet Program, which I am a product of, and it was before my tenure as a career police officer within this city. I worked under the Hubbard administration. In 1972, he was recognized by the U.S. Attorney General for achieving one of the highest rates of crime prevention in the country at that time. O'Reilly Sr. served as a mayor in 1978 to 1986, continued his forward thinking. He started our annual homecoming, helped create the citizen commissions, neighborhood associations, police mini stations in Southeast Dearborn, and many more programs. The two O'Reillys together are quite a duo and should be recognized together individually. Both Emma Jean Woodyard and Jack Tate have a long legacy of service to the city, and I support them wholeheartedly being honored in the city-owned spaces, being named after them, or at least proposed to be. I would like the Hubbard Manor East and West to be renamed in honor and recognition of the Hubbard family. Not Mayor Hubbard in particular, but the Hubbard family. I made mention of this several years ago when we were talking about renaming some of the Hubbard properties. For the ballroom in particular at the Performing Arts Center, was thinking about the Hubbard family location instead of just Mayor Hubbard. I think many have forgotten or don't remember the family's public service. Besides serving as mayor between 1942 and 1978, his family also served. Daughter Nancy served on the Dearborn Council for 24 years and had worked in the city DPW in building and safety as a secretary. Her brother John J. Hubbard served as both a councilman and a city clerk. Brother Frank Hubbard was a Dearborn City treasurer. Mayor Hubbard's youngest son, Henry Ford Hubbard, served as a DPW director. Son Jim, we knew him as Jimmy Hubbard, served as a career Dearborn police officer, and I knew him before he passed away. Hubbard's granddaughter, Susan Hubbard, served as an attorney in Wayne County Probate Court and Dearborn City Council member, Wayne County Commissioner, and is still serving as a Third Circuit Court judge. Susan Hubbard also ran as a candidate for the 19th District Court here in Dearborn. Why am I saying this? The Hubbard family should also be honored, and not just for the many things, good and bad, by their namesake, Mayor Orville Hubbard. I'd like the Hubbard family name to be placed on the East and West Hubbard Manors. When people think of Hubbard Manor, they may automatically think of Orville Hubbard, but I think they should be thought of as the whole family collectively because of their history here in Dearborn. I'd consider the Dearborn Administrative Center instead be considered to be renamed for the O'Reilly Administration Center to recognize that family's legacy and knowing that Jack O'Reilly was instrumental in vacating the old City Hall at Michigan Avenue in Schaefer and brought it to the current location where we're at now, known as the Dearborn Administrative Center. I'd also like to mention that Suzanne Serini, with her outstanding service both to seniors and both to youth programs in the city in particular, from what I remember, could possibly be considered to have her name placed on the entrance to the Dearborn City Council chambers. Lastly, I have no objections to the naming of public spaces for Emma Jean Whittier and Jack Tate. They are very deserving. For that matter, I yield my.
Yeah, there's one more time anyway, so
Yes.
that's fine. So is there anything that you wanted to come out of that? Is there?
Well, I just asked for them for a study session too, the first two items that are going to come before us.
Okay. Yeah, Councilman Herrick?
Thank you. I appreciate the suggestions that Councilman Paris is making and the thought that he's given to alternate locations, and also the residents who came forward to speak about this. Two of the residents mentioned, if this is to, after we vote, if the name change to the Hubbard Manor East and West is to go forward, both residents asked if we would consider, some other way of acknowledging the Hubbard family or the Hubbard name. And Councilman Paris has made a couple of recommendations here today of other locations we might do namings. And I would like to discuss that as well, because I think that, as has been discussed, the Hubbard family has had a significant, irrefutable impact on Dearborn, what it is today, and certainly what it has been over the years, be it good or maybe not so good. And it will be a difficult, it will be an in-depth conversation to figure out the best way to acknowledge those contributions. And I think that we could put our heads together to discuss that going forward, but definitely worthwhile to consider. Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments? Okay, Mr. Clerk, Mayor, you had something?
Should I go to make my statement now or after the vote?
I would wait till after.
That's fine.
Roll call vote, please.
We'll start with Councilmember Paris.
On which, I'm sorry.
The resolution
28,
As presented,
as written.
as one.
No. As one,
Councilmember Elsa.
all four of them together.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Rome, I don't know what the confusion is.
Well, I am confused. So I'm
Okay,
just
so let
asking
me,
for clarification.
you asked, so here's a clarification.
Yes.
You asked for a splitting of the question. It was supported by Councilwoman Herrick, and you lost 4-3. Mr. Clerk, can you repeat back the roll of, what was the roll 4-3? Who was the 4 and who was the 3?
The yes votes for Abraham, Paris, and Herrick. No votes, El Sawafi, yourself, Councilman Enos, and Councilman Hamud.
Okay, and then Mr. Romer, can you remind him what happens when you lose the vote and it goes back to, refers back to the original motion?
That's what I wanted to clarify.
Yeah, once the motion fails, it reverts back to the original proposal, which is the 4 as a group. So that's what you're voting on right now.
Okay, so Mr. Clerk, is that clear? All right,
Yes.
Mr. Clerk, let's start over again so we can get it right. So let's have a roll call vote on what's written in front of the council.
We'll start with Councilmember Paris.
No.
Councilmember El Sawafi.
Yes.
Councilmember Herrick.
Yes.
Council President Serini.
Yes.
Councilman Enos.
Yes.
Councilman Hamud.
Yes.
Councilman Abraham.
Yes.
6 yeas, the ordinance, the resolution passes.
Okay. 6, okay, thank you very much. Any other questions or comments, Mayor? I know you wanted to make comments, so I'd like to reserve yours. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think I'm going to kind of start at the bottom as it's written before you and work my way up. I think as it pertains to the Rotunda Gallery at the Henry Ford Centennial Library, I mean, Emma Jean Woodard, a Goliath in the art space. And there's so much left for Emma Jean to accomplish that we're working on together, and so thankful for everything that she has done and bringing new life to the city of Dearborn. And there's so much more that we're going to create across the city of Dearborn, projects that I'm so excited to announce to the public in the coming months. And so thank you so much for your service, Emma Jean, and for your friendship through all of this, and to helping me navigate who is deserving of the Mayor's Art Awards. I used to get a list of 3. The list of 3 got cut down to 2, and then I got a very strong recommendation each year afterwards. And so thank you so much for doing the homework and providing me the strong recommendation time and time again. The historical offices. Jack Tate, God bless you. You have the youngest heart in this room. Let me be the one to say this. And we are so thankful to learn from you each and every single day. You sprinkle your wisdom, and whenever we're able to get splashed by it, we are blessed for it. And so I am so incredibly thankful that you continue to join this team and you continue to bless its administration. And let it be known that the offices, the historical offices, are too small to capture your accomplishments in totality. But it was the closest building to you, and it was the building that I think was nearest to you. And thankful to Matt and the team for that recommendation. Yes. So all the credit to you. To Suzanne Serini, thank you for paving the road for someone with a name like mine to ever think about running for office one day, not only in the city but in this country. The Serinis are family. I grew up, Mike has known me my whole life, Suzanne Serini has known me my whole life. Our families are actually, married somewhere across the family tree, is the Dearborn story. And many of us sitting on this council who have served in public office would not be where we are if it was not for your courage to endeavor on a path that was not taken by anyone. And for you to pave that road, allowing us the grace to one day assume and give back in the same manner that you have, in the same manner that your son has, in the same manner that your family has. And lastly, to Mayor O'Reilly, my predecessor. I grew up with Mayor O'Reilly's son. We worked together. And to Chief Murray's statements, Mayor O'Reilly, was a very humble man. And he was a person with steady leadership at a time when Dearborn went through so much. And to that, it's deserving of recognition. It was an individual who differed from me in so many ways. Yet when the time called for you to take the right stance and not the popular stance, he did so. When racists were coming to this town to burn Qurans or throw them in toilets, he had the moral conscience to step forward and call it out for what it was, and to unite a community together, a community that was hurting. And so I give all the credit to the world, and you raised phenomenal children. I want to say that as well. And thankful for your entire family and for the leadership that you served over the years, not only as mayor but also as city council person. Here's what I'll say about Orville Hubbard. In my tenure, there won't be a single building anybody can bring forward to me and tell me that they want to name after Orville Hubbard that I'm going to support. You do not honor bad history. If you want to learn about Orville Hubbard, Jack Tate has done a phenomenal job for us. You can walk into the Commandant quarters, and there's a full wall, as should be in a historical museum, to talk about what he has done. When you name a building or anything after an individual, you are celebrating that person's legacy. You do not celebrate somebody who proudly stood up and said, I am a proud segregationist. Nowhere in history should we be celebrating segregationists. People who believed separating blacks from whites was the right thing to do. I walk into our senior towers. We have black residents in those senior towers who, if Mayor Hubbard was the mayor today, they would not be permitted to sleep in their rooms. Because he believed. He believed and he called out whenever residents would sell homes to black Americans. You can look up the history files. This is all noted.
In the courts.
You want to know about history, you read a book. No name on a building is telling us what Orville Hubbard did, and it never will. It's time those names came down once and for all for good. And it's not the end. I still know there's Orville Hubbard Drive out there, and I'm coming for it. I'll be the first one to say it. The only reason it's not on this agenda is because 80% of it is a county road. And so I need them to act, not us. We're prepared to act. I just need them to get their stuff together.
Thank you, Mayor.
No, I'm not done. There's so much to say about this.
Okay.
When it comes to honoring, I've never gotten an F on a report card and my father wanted to honor me for it.
Yeah.
Okay? Doing the popular thing, as Orville Hubbard claimed, it's popular to be a segregationist, does not make it right. And so if you do something that is not right, you should not be celebrated for it. It was not popular in that time. The civil rights movement didn't usher forward because it was popular, but because it was right. And we had a mayor who would have opposed the sit-ins at the lunch counters, who would have went against everything that Martin Luther King did, Malcolm X and the likes, against Rosa Parks, whose bust sits at the Henry Ford Museum. He would not be celebrating these historical artifacts in our city. Yet we're supposed to put his name up in high praise. I disagree with that. A colored history is not something to be celebrated. This is an individual who was prosecuted because he stood by his individual, stoned a resident in the city of Dearborn for selling his home to a black family. And when the jury acquitted him, he took them all out to a steak dinner and he shouted as loud as he could, "I am a proud segregationist." That is not somebody I ever want to honor. Not in my tenure and not in any tenure to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I know the vote has passed, but I just wanted to shed a little light for my mom, just some real small portion of it. Many of people would know our restaurants, Uncle Sam's, named after my mom's father, Uncle Sam's. Restaurant on Greenfield Rotunda, and then on Dick's in the city of Dearborn. As a young boy, there's the Historic Museum put out a photo the other day of God rest my sister, my father, me, and my brother behind the barbecue on Dick's Avenue. My mom began this career of service, definitely public service, folks. We had 3 restaurants, and she was an entrepreneur. She got together the business district in the south end of Dearborn, got them together, organized them, created a festival, street festival, ran for public office, unsuccessful, as Mr. Dagger was here earlier, in 1985, and re-ran and became, in 1989, the second highest vote getter, the council president, council vice president, council pro temp in 1989. So my entire life in restaurants and public service with my mom, I cannot tell you how many people slept in the basement of our house when they were here for a short time or visiting the country or coming. And she had instilled in our family public service. It was very, very big part. I never forget the days with my father making signs, putting them out, asking people to support her. And it's a very big honor, as I tell people, when sometimes you see me say things directly. To put your name on a ballot, put your family out there and run for office is the equivalent of actually doing something. It is real leadership. And it's not based on who's sitting in the crowd and who's patronizing you. You make the right decision. And that's what my mom taught us. And I'm very, very proud of her and always have been. She was very committed to public service. And again, as many of us has touched on history, my colleague, Councilman Abraham, gave us a very good lesson or a history aspect where we went ahead and put every council member across the board in the back chamber there of all the councils that came before us. It was my idea to name the councils, but Councilman Abraham said, hey, we need to put the legacy. This job is not about sitting up in the front or, getting a good parking spot. Folks, we take a lot of time away from our families, but it's very, very rewarding to help those that can't help themselves. And I'm very proud of my mom, what she did, what she overcame, because I was there. I was a high school senior when I would find bricks thrown into our restaurant window, wrapped on it with "Go Home Camel Jockey." There was only 4,000 Arab Americans registered to vote in the city of Dearborn. My mom won election. That's why I was strongly opposing districts and saying that we have to separate. It's one city. And that's what Mayor O'Reilly, I really touched on. And I didn't forget those times, but it made us stronger, and it made us work harder. And this is one city. That's why I did not support the charters initiative, which they did turn down, regarding making wards and districts of the city. It's 24 miles, folks. You have to support the entire city. We always believed in it, and thank you, Mom. We love you. Next item.
Item 29, resolution by Councilmember Paris, supported unanimously, offering condolences to the family of Josephina Gabbard and requesting immediate effect.
Josephina Gabbard, also known as Pina Gabbard, was one of the oldest residents in the history of the city of Dearborn. When she passed away suddenly on September 18th, 2024, she was honored age of 105. It may seem strange to you use the word suddenly, but somebody who passes at 105 years old, but I say suddenly because she was not sick or disabled and her mind was as sharp as a tack. She made lunch for some of her family earlier in the afternoon, and no one suspected that what would happen just a few hours later. Whenever anyone greeted her with the words, "It's so nice to see you again," she would always reply back, me too," and everybody knew in her heart that she meant it. Pina came to this country from Rome, Italy after World War II and married her American GI hero, Cecil Allen. They settled in Dearborn and built their home on Berry Street in 1948. Pina lived there for 76 years. She also voted in every election. The clerk double-checked that fact. Her neighbors adored her and took care of her like she was family, but that was easy for them to do because she treated everybody with kindness and love. Pina had 3 children, Carol, Dennis, and Charles. She also had 9 grandchildren, 29 great-grandchildren, and 1 great-great-grandson.
Wow.
Of course, the family is heartbroken and devastated by the loss of the family matriarch, but they know Pina would want her family and her friends to cherish and remember the thousands of warm and beautiful memories that she created and will live in their hearts forever. Pina attended nearly every family function and frequently made dinner for her family at her home. Her smile would light up the room, and she was always in the best part of every gathering. Whenever she felt or left a dinner party, she would always say in her beautiful Italian accent, "I look forward to seeing you again." And now her family and friends can say, "Me too, Pina, me too." And from what I understand, I know our clerk would probably have some comments on this also. Mr. Durante.
Mr. Durante, go ahead.
Yeah, well, thank you. It was certainly a trying week for the whole family. She was, like you said, the Italian matriarch, and she leaves a huge void in the hearts of so many of our relatives, friends, and neighbors. I was introduced to Pina by her granddaughter, Maria, at a family Christmas party. She had a hard time understanding my name or pronouncing my name, so I said, "Just call me Giorgio." And she goes, "Oh, Giorgio, Giorgio." So she called me Giorgio for a while. 2 years later, Maria and I were married, and she was at our wedding, of course. And it was special to me because I had lost both my grandparents at a very early age, and my grandmother's. And to experience the grandmother's love again in your family was pretty special. It was an experience that I'll always cherish. And I thank God for putting her into my life, and I was truly blessed, and I deeply miss her. So thank you for the honor.
Thank you very much, George. We do appreciate it. And the unanimous roll shall be attached. Next item.
Item 30 is an ordinance number 24-1826 in need of an introduction. Synopsis: an ordinance to amend the streets, sidewalks, and other public places chapter 17 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Dearborn by amending Article 6, Section 17-242, entitled Public Benefit Declared Obligation of Property Owner.
Mr. Romer, I know this came on late as a companion piece. Can you give us a breakdown on it just a little bit for the members?
Sure, so this is the companion piece to the revisions made to the tree ordinance, specifically the tree replacement by the city provision that we added, which allows the city in its discretion to replant another tree either in a park, its row, wherever it may be if one is taken off private property. The code section in 17, which is referenced in that provision, had a mandatory replacement. This is actually contrary to what we just inserted into that code update.
Yep.
So we've stricken that provision since we inserted the new code update into the prior reading.
All right, thank you, Mr. Romer. It is introduced by Councilman Al-Sawafi and offered by Councilwoman Herrick. Supported by Councilman Enos. Any questions or comments on this? Any objection to unanimous roll? Unanimous roll shall be attached. Next item. Oh.
Yeah, this is the first reading.
Oh, it doesn't say that. I apologize. That is correct. I apologize. It is an ordinance. You're correct. So, Mr. Clerk, can we have the first reading?
This is the first reading of ordinance number 24-1826, an ordinance to amend the streets, sidewalks, and other public places chapter 17 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Dearborn by amending Article 6, Section 17-242, entitled Public Benefit Declared Obligation of Property Owner.
All right, any questions or comments? Any objection to unanimous roll? Unanimous roll shall be attached. Next item.
Item 31, resolution in need of offer and support concurring in the appointment of Isa Shaheen to the Security Systems Board with a term.
Offered by Councilman Paris. Supported by Councilman El Sawafi.
For a term ending June 30th, 2027, and requesting immediate effect.
All right, so these next three items, our security board is being updated, and we have to place these people on the board. Any questions or comments on the first one? Chief Shaheen? All right, any objection, unanimous roll? Unanimous roll should be attached. Next item.
Item 32, resolution in need of offer and support concurring in the appointment of Bradley Mendelson to this.
Offered by Councilman Paris and supported by Councilman Hamud.
This is another appointment to the Security Systems Board with a term ending June 30th, 2027, and requesting immediate effect.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clerk. Any objection to unanimous roll? Unanimous roll should be attached. Next item.
Item 33, resolution in need of offer and support concurrent in the.
Offered by Councilman Enos. Supported by Councilwoman Herrick. Okay.
This is another member of the Security System Board with a term ending June 30th, 2027, and requesting immediate effect.
All right, and this is Corey Jiraki.
I'm sorry, I didn't say his name.
Is that Corey Jiraki?
Yes.
Yeah, this is our Deputy Finance Director. So we do appreciate that. Any objection, unanimous roll? Unanimous roll shall be attached. Next item.
Nothing further from the clerk, thank you.
All right, great. Thank you guys for appearing through this meeting. We do have a couple of, Director Kennedy's not here? Oh, okay. All right, I wanted to mention Director Kennedy, hiding behind the post there, but Director Kennedy, you know, I have to say, when the mayor went through our transition and he asked him all the finance, all the information, your name kept coming up. At the end, he said I was right. You're the right guy. Doing a great job with a great team. We're going to talk about that picture, though, but we want to recognize you for being recognized by Detroit, by the Class of 45 Detroit Regional Chambers Leadership Program, being selected as a member. Tremendous honor. We really do appreciate it. And I love the picture, but it wasn't a really good flamboyant shirt that you usually wear. So we wanted to congratulate you. Listen, folks, I can tell you that the mayor shares this. You're only as good as the team that you put together, and he's put together an excellent team. And when your people start getting recognized regionally and statewide and nationally, it's excellent. So, Mr. Kennedy, the People's Finance Director, we do appreciate you, and I wanted to make sure you got recognized for that. I just had a couple other things too. I wanted to make sure that we received an email. We do get a lot of complaints, but once in a while we get a good one. Believe me, I sometimes laminate them. And I got a really nice email praising our DPW and Director Hawkins regarding a branch on a tree that fell down by itself. Before anybody calls and said we cut it down, fell down and blocked the street corner. And within matters of hours, our DPW went out, cleared that road. Again, folks, you know, was it on Sunday? You're right. Thank you, Councilman. It was, Sunday. You're right. It was on a Sunday. I do really appreciate it, and the hard work of our people a lot of times gets overlooked, and we wanted to let you know we do appreciate it, and the residents do appreciate it. They do. You know, there's always saying people more complain than thank, but you get those thanks once in a while, and it means a lot. So I wanted to make sure it was recognized. Two last things I have before I turn over to my council. Obviously, there's a very big hardship going on overseas in Israel, and myself being from Lebanese descent, and in Lebanon now, going into Lebanon. I just want to give our thoughts and prayers to everybody that has members back home. Many people do visit and travel to Lebanon and understand what's going on, and we just wish a speedy recovery. I was recently alerted that my council colleague, chairman of the Dearborn Heights City Council, Mohammed Beydoun, lost his cousin Batul today, as well as her child in a bombing that happened in Lebanon. So this, folks, has been going on for over a year nonstop and been going on for 50 years, depending on who's counting, or resolution you decide to use or discredit. Again, all I can say is that I wish the speedy recovery and return. I can tell you what, Lebanon is very, very resilient. And if you don't think so, just look back in history in 06. Was it 06, Mayor, 09? 06. It's very resilient people. And I just hope that our thoughts or prayers are for anyone on any side that loses any person of innocence that has nothing to do with conflict. So again, I wanted to make that aware and put our condolences to our council colleague, Council Chair of Dearborn Heights, Mohammed Beydoun, for his cousin as well as for, the infant child as well. At that point, I'd like to turn it over to my colleagues. Councilwoman Herrick.
Thank you. I would just like to congratulate the superintendent of the Dearborn Public Schools. I'm sorry, superintendent of Crestwood Schools, pardon me, Yusuf Masalam has been named the National Superintendent of the Year by the National Association of School Superintendents. I had the pleasure of working near, at the desk next to Yusuf Masalam when I worked for the Dearborn Public Schools. And he was always a ray of sunshine when he came into the office, always positive and upbeat and looking out for the best for the students and the faculty of the Dearborn Public Schools and finding the best in them. And I think that it was a wonderful opportunity for him to move over to be a superintendent in the Crestwood schools. Their game was Dearborn Public Schools lost because he is just a tremendous educator. So congratulations, Yusuf.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we are sending him a joint letter. Yusuf Masalam is a tremendous Dearborn man. He's still a Dearborn resident. And you're absolutely right, Councilman Eric, to lose him to Dearborn Heights schools. You know, we didn't want to do that, but to be recognized nationally, that's why we wanted to send a letter on behalf of the council. So we do appreciate that. Councilman Al-Swafi?
Thank you, Council President. I just want to talk about my experience earlier today and remind everybody that it's a library card sign-up month, and we're closing the end of that month to go to the library and get your library card. I had the pleasure of actually going there today and getting my library card. I remember when they used to be orange cards. I was hoping I can still get those. Actually, the library cards were one of the first cards I put in my wallets before any identification cards or any credit cards. I learned the hard way that you can't purchase anything with these at the local store when I was a kid.
You tried, huh?
I tried. But I went there today, and we talked about the mayor, and it's not about the mayor, but it's about having an excellent team, and they were amazing. Everybody that I worked with today, specifically Michelle and Will at the front desk who helped me with the library card, and then we did a quick tour around, and they were just so happy to be at work, proud of their work. The facility was clean. They were very professional, and I had a great time today just walking around the library. And a lot of residents probably don't know this, but if you have old VHS tapes or DVDs and you want them turned into digits, there's a place at the library that will do that for free. So just a shout out to everybody there. Thank you so much.
What about those expired
Thank
books?
Thank you, Councilman. Any expired books? Yeah, Councilman Herrick, you have a last comment?
I do. When you were talking about, we get lots of complaints, but we don't get that many praises for the staff here in Dearborn. Well, I heard from a resident, and we get lots of emails and letters from residents and people that come speak here. But this was just such an unusual thing. I was out taking out my trash cart a few days ago, and a gentleman pulled up in his car in front of my house, and he knew who I was. I didn't know who he was, but he had come not on his own behalf, but on behalf of his 82-year-old neighbor who wanted to send me a message. And for those folks who were here earlier and missed this, I'm going to have to let them know that I did this. She sent me a poem. She, like many people, we don't know that they're out there. We know they're out there. We don't know who they are necessarily, watching our council meetings every time we meet. And she does. And she told her neighbors she wanted me to have this, and I want to share this with my colleagues on council because this is a lifelong resident, 82 years old. And I'm not going to say her name just in light of her privacy, but she had this poem that she had written years ago, and she wanted to share this. And it's called Tree. And it says, "Tree, I love you. I'd like to put my arms around you, but what would the neighbors think? Let's meet early or late, so faithful and familiar, standing there above me. Who cares what the neighbors think?" The end.
There you go. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. All right, Councilman Paris?
Just real quick, I just wanted to say thank you for everyone that came out to the recent Detroit Dearborn Neighborhood Block Party. That was the third annual such event that took place. I was really privileged to talk to a lot of not just our own employees and some of our neighbors and residents that were there, but a lot from Detroit too, which also included a lot of the firefighters and police officers. And then had the privilege of talking to these police officers for national recognition of police officers, saying thank you to a Police Officer Day. They were very thankful to be talked to in that manner. But also what was really good too is I gotta give a shout out to DPW and the city crews that were out there, and police and fire. They really engaged everyone. I mean, I had an opportunity to talk to a lot of employees and just thank them for what they did. Great event out there, and I'm looking forward to 4th and beyond. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, Councilman Hamud?
Yeah, I think one thing we kind of touched on earlier, actually, was an invocation of the meeting that the pastor had touched on. Just for residents to be aware, if you don't follow on social media. So earlier this week, there was a renewed conflict in the Middle East, especially in southern Lebanon, where a lot of people from this community are from, including myself and Council President Serini. And in the course of one day, Israeli airstrikes killed 500 people, and many of those people were actually had family here, both here and in Dearborn Heights. And so I guess one of the things I just want people to be mindful of is, you know, a lot of these conflicts we hear about on the news really do hit home, especially for local people. And just to kind of put in the scale of that, I mean, in 2006, you had about 1,200 people who were killed in Lebanon. And in the course of one day, they killed more than they did in 33 days in the past. So the scale of the conflicts that we're seeing now in the Middle East are kind of unheard of, because I think a lot of people know that these things have been ongoing, but sometimes don't understand the different levels. So please, like, you know, if you see a Lebanese person or even a Palestinian person and they seem more down than usual, it's like, you know, just kind of know what's going on. And they don't always want to talk about it either, because, you know, I think a lot of people kind of should know around here how these types of things go. But do keep everyone in your prayers and try to have some empathy for your neighbors, as a lot of people are going through a difficult time, not just even if their family member is injured, but because a lot of people are worried about, especially their parents, their aunts, their uncles, their cousins, and things like that this week. So just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilman Hamud. Mayor?
What an interesting transition to say, you know, at a time where war is hitting very close to home. Obviously, this Thursday we'll be celebrating a Park for Peace. And so this Thursday, Peace Park in the west end of Dearborn. Friday, I'm so sorry, my team's all shaking their heads like, why, what's wrong with what I'm saying? This Friday, the Peace Park over in the west end will officially be open. I think we're having a celebration at 7 o'clock for the general public. Feel free to make your way over. There'll be a lot of great activities, and it'll be open, therefore, after. So it's come together very beautifully. You can also take a look at the first high-race crosswalk that we installed, right connecting it between the new park across the street and the West Village Commons parking lot as well. So I hope you all join us.
Yep, I can't wait to see it. I'll tell you, if whoever's doing the videos, Mayor, for that place, phenomenal. I don't know which department, communication? We got to get you to do something for the council. Finance director, too?
He's paid.
I'll tell you, these videos, if you didn't see that Peace Parks video, man, something else. I wanted to run down there myself right now. I can't wait to see it. a lot of work went into this, folks. So, Mayor, I remember when I was in your living room and you showed me the sketches. I was like, is that iron? I was like, yeah, that's iron. Oh, wow. So, you know, there was a lot of work from design, implementation, allocation, funding. And again, you know, we were all out there together when we allocated the $30 million that people don't realize was 10 million of the taxpayer dollars from Dearborn, and the other 20 was state and county supporting the buckets of money, as the mayor called it. And, you know, I can't wait to see it because it looks like a home run. And then again, with every good thing, we did have some people saying there's too many people downtown now, so I don't know what we're gonna do about that. But that's a good problem to have, I think, right? Yeah, I can't wait to see that. I wanted to make sure we mentioned that. Mr. Clerk, you have anything from your department?
Just that absentee ballots will be going out Thursday and Friday. We're anticipating about 8,500 in the first go-around.
Excellent.
So
All right.
look for them in your mailboxes.
Excellent. All right, at this point, we have our second public comment. If there's anyone here to address the council regarding city business, please step forward, state your name and address for a record. Okay, hearing and seeing none, I close the public comment. We have a motion to adjourn by Councilman Mahmoud. We are adjourned.